to leave the floor to Mohammed and Marco. Thank you guys again for joining us.
Okay, thanks a lot, Eda. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the first part of the training yesterday. And today we are gonna to continue the training, the second half of the workshop. We will start in the beginning to recapitalize on what we presented to you or share with you yesterday, and talk about some takeaways that you need to remember in order to apply for the future call. Just also very fresh information that we would like to share with you, that the new PRIMA call is gonna to launch by the second week of February, and we are gonna to organize the PRIMA Info Day on the 16th of February. So you can for sure attend virtually, because it's gonna to be live streamed over the PRIMA website, YouTube channel, and the Facebook. And for any question, you can approach us or approach Eda for sure, and we will be so happy to answer your questions. Okay, going directly to the recap that yesterday we shared with you what we call it like our mandate or the reference document for us, which is the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, or the SRIA. This is like our mandate or the strategic agenda for the PRIMA program at the level of the program. And it is very important to go through this document if you are gonna to apply for agro-food or for farming, nexus, and water. So you need to double check this in order to make sure that your project is not only fitting with the scope of the topic that you are gonna to apply for, but it is also aligned with the overall strategy of the thematic area that you are gonna to submit your project in. So this is very important. That's why we keep highlighting the importance of the SRIA. And then we discussed to you that the PRIMA consists of 3 thematic areas plus the nexus: the management of water, farming system, and agro-food value chain. And under each one of these, you can find 4 priority areas under each one of these thematic areas. For each topic, we used to address 1 or 2 on average priority areas for each thematic area. So it's very important as well. That's why we used to refer to the SRIA, so you can find as well the scope and the expected impact of each one of these priority areas. So it is important again to read the SRIA. And then the summary that we have the 4 thematic areas. We have 2 sections, section 1 and section 2, and we have 3 different types of actions: the RIA or Research Innovation Action, the IA, which is an innovation action, and the CSA or Coordination Support Action. So for each topic, this is the combination of the 3 different categories. That it is section 1, water, maybe it's RIA or IA. For farming, the same as well for agro-food and for nexus. For section 2, we only have till now RIA as a type of action, and we don't have so far nexus under section 2. And we have this standard numbering system on the PRIMA that it is RIA topic 1.4.1. This means that it is section 1, thematic area nexus, and topic 1. And IA topic 2.2.2, this means that it is section 2, it's farming, and topic 2 of the farming under section 2. This is the way that you need to understand the numbering system of the PRIMA. And then we highlighted the importance of the admissibility and eligibility consideration in applying, in submitting or applying to PRIMA. First of all, that for admissibility check, which is done by the PRIMA Secretariat, is gonna to check that the project has been submitted successfully through the electronic submission system before the deadline, and we are not gonna to accept by any means, under any circumstances, any other way of submission, like via email or whatever, and attachments or share points. We will not accept this. All documents have to be submitted through the electronic submission system or the ESS. And it has to be readable, accessible, and printable, because we highlighted that the assessor used to print out your documents for the evaluation. So it's really very important to make sure that your figures or your tables, your diagrams, the text font are always readable and printable. It has to be complete with all obligatory supporting documents, and we are gonna to refresh together our memories about what are the supporting documents or the documents for each stages, the first stage and the second stage in the next slides. And you need to include briefly in the first stage the exploitation and dissemination of the results, and maybe a draft plan with more details for the second stage. Also, you need to respect and consider the page limit for stage 1, the pre-proposal, or part 2, the scientific document. It's up to 10 pages. If you try to submit like 11 pages in a PDF, the system is smart enough to realize this, and it will give you an error message. For the second stage, the page limit for the full application, it is up to 50 pages. Also, what is also important is the eligibility check, and here we just need to highlight again about the minimum size of the consortium, at least to have 3 partners, 3 independent legal entities from 3 different participating states, 1 at least from the EU member states, and at least 1 of them from the third country, from other participating states, PRIMA participating states. And this is the case for RIA and EA. CSA is not essential now because we are not gonna to have it for the 2021. Some cases, for instance, if you have like Turkey and Tunisia and Italy, this is an eligible consortium. Turkey, Tunisia, and Morocco, this is not eligible because you don't have 1 partner at least from EU member state. Turkey and Italy and Austria, for instance, this is also not eligible because you have only 2 participating states, which is Turkey and Italy, but you don't have a third partner from participating states. So this is very important. The average size of the consortium, we share that after 3 calls, it is around 10 partners from like 5 or 6 countries. One of the questions that we received yesterday, that can I include more than 1 partner from the same country? It is for sure yes. And the governing rule is always the rule and essentiality and the knowledge of this partner that are gonna to be integrated inside this project. That you are not inviting your colleague or your friend or somebody that you used to publish with, but this partner or this entity, either from the same country or from another country, has to have a clear role and participation in the project. Please, if you have any questions, you can text on the Q&A and we will answer it accordingly. And then for the evaluation procedure, it is also important to get familiar with how the PRIMA is evaluating, and we are exactly applying the same rules of evaluation and the same threshold as well of the H2020. For the first stage, you have main 2 sections or 2 parts, the excellence and the impact. And there is the first sub-threshold, it's 4 out of 5 for the excellence, the same as well for the impact, and the overall threshold, it's around 8. And stage 2, it is 3 sections or 3 parts to be evaluated. The excellence and its sub-threshold, it is 3 out of 5, the impact and the implementation, but you have to consider that the overall threshold, it's 10 out of 15. Also to share with you that based on the experience of the first 3 calls, that the average success or the average score of the winning proposal, for sure it will not be less than 12.5 or 13 out of 15. So you can imagine how tough the competition was. And yesterday we heard from Mesut about his score. For instance, he scored 16.7 out of 17.5. Why it is above 15? Because we said that for innovation action, just 1 second. Okay. For innovation action, we used to give higher weight for the impact. So this is really something really important to you to consider while drafting your first stage pre-proposal or the second stage for application, to pay a lot of attention to the impact, because maybe your project is gonna to be selected because you scored exactly the same score with other project, but you scored a higher in impact. And this is something that the assessors will consider during the panel meeting. So this is something really important to consider. Also to share with you that each proposal is evaluated at least by 3 independent experts, and then we will have the final ranking during the panel meeting. We invite all experts. We are talking about 15 to 20 or 25 sometimes, depends on the number of applications that we received under each thematic area or under each call. And they used to achieve the final ranking for the first stage, the shortlisted projects, or during the second stage, the final ranking recommended for funding in a consensual manner. And then Marco yesterday shared with you some tips and tricks on how to draft or prepare your documents. And this, by the way, these are requirements which can be useful not only for PRIMA, but also for Horizon Europe, for any other program, because it is a standard one. First, you have to have an attractive title and acronym that is really catchy and easy to be remembered, good and comprehensive abstract. This is like the first introductory point between you and the assessors, novel idea and clear goals, smart objectives, results and deliverables, clear methodology, and defined action plan. This is the requirements of a good project. The first point is to have a good proposal, as mentioned in the previous slide. It's also very, very important to make sure that your project or your idea is 100% aligned with the goal and the topic that you are going to address, because with this high competition, it is really very important to make sure that you analyze the topic as we explained yesterday, you and your team fully confident that your idea is 100% aligned to this goal. Strong coordination and consortium building with the complementary strengths, that not all of them from academia or all of them from the private sector or all of them from one geographical area, but it has to be balanced. We are not sharing any percentages here, but it has to be balanced, and for sure it depends on the scope and the nature of or the type of your project and the topic that you are going to apply for. And reasonable and justified budget. You needn't to be overestimated or underestimating your budget. Avoid ethical issues if possible. If not, it is okay, but you need to clarify to the assessors how are you going to solve this issue, like having like ethical committee and so on. Be innovative, and innovation is not only in the idea, it can be in the methodology, on the management, on the way that you write your proposal. You invent some attractive diagrams that can really summarize many pages in just one diagram or one page. So this is very important. The most common reasons of failure: that weak project idea, or like it is maybe out of date or very old technology, low relevance to the not align it to the donor priority or to the PRIMA priorities, weak consortium or partners overlapping and unjustified why you invite these partners to be part, lack of expertise, and expertise is not only the technical but also the management, because this is something really important, that how to select the best coordinator. And Marco in his session in session 8, he's gonna to share with you some tips as well, how to define or find a good coordinator and stroke partner as well for your consortium. Unfocused approach and vague objective. That's why he said that it has to be a SMART objective. The first one is to be specific to your project. Unrealistic amount of work. Don't try to avoid to be overestimating the effort that you are going to achieve. You are not going to solve all problems in this sector for sure with one project. So it's very important to match between what you are going to or you promise to achieve at the end, and with the resources, the time, the human resources, as well as the financial resources that you will have in order to achieve this. Uncertain long-term impact or lack of future direction. This is very important to highlight the impact of your project. Over and underestimated budget, and poor or unclear language in preparing your proposal. Okay, keep the title and acronym simple and catchy. Avoid general background, especially in the first stage, and try to be very specific and use the spaces very wisely. Be concise in writing your proposal. Okay, the third point is very important, and we are gonna to devote or talk more about this in session 6, inshallah. Identify and quantify the target groups and the beneficiaries. And this is also related partially to the point of the gender issues, because we said that the gender balance is very important for us, and this can be achieved over 2 levels: at the level of the consortium and the management and decision making and the technical work, and at the level of the target groups and the beneficiaries. Okay, register on the platform and update your information regularly. You can prepare your own checklist table, read the guideline and the call text, please, very carefully, and also the SRIA. Provide all information required and check the PRIMA website regularly, because sometimes we may extend the deadline. And this was the case on 2020 due to the COVID. We received a lot of requests from the applicants as well as from the national funding agencies. We checked with the European Commission and with the PRIMA Board of Trustees, and we extended the deadline for 1 month for section 1 and 1.5 months for section 2. So this is really very important to usually or to regularly check the PRIMA website. Finally, the PRIMA application procedure. You start with the first stage, you submit the pre-proposal. You have part 1, which is admin online part plus a document to be downloaded from the PRIMA website and to be submitted or uploaded on the electronic submission system. And part 2, which is the pre-proposal, transfer it into a PDF, maximum 10 pages, and to be uploaded. Then we will do the admin check and then the technical evaluation as I explained. Then you entered to the second stage. You will submit part 1, you check the admin data and you upload an updated version of part 1, and then the full application up to 50 pages. And what is the new part here is the budget sheet. And in session 7, our colleague Pau, the PRIMA financial officer, will present to you how to prepare your budget sheet and the different sections. And this is to be uploaded in an Excel format. And then again, admin check and the technical evaluation. And finally, the third stage, which is the contracting. Okay, yesterday we discussed the pre-proposal, and in the next session, Marco will talk about the part 2 or the full application. Okay, very quickly, that the guidelines and the documents. You can find all documents on the PRIMA website. Under the reference documents, you will find the SRIA, you will find the grant model, the model of the grant contract, and you will find all guidelines and all templates, the annual work program, and the templates as well, and the call text. And then here, the main sections of the first stage, that you have the title, you have the acronym, and the table of the partners, and make sure that the table of the partners and its order and numbering is the same in part 1 for the admin data. It is the same on part 2, which is the technical documents for the first stage and for the second stage, and also the same as well on the electronic submission system. And then you have, for the first stage, you have section 1, the excellence, and you have section 2, which is the impact. Under the excellence, there are 4 main points. 1.1, which is the objectives, the overall, and the specific to your project. 1.2, which is very important, the relation to the goal and to the topic, how your proposal are gonna to address the challenges and the scopes of the topic that you are gonna to address. And we share that for each topic, you used to find 3 parts: the challenges or the problem in the region that we wanted to have solutions addressing these problems. The second is the scope or the applied solution that we are looking for. And the third is the expected impact that we are expecting, or we ask these projects that are going to apply to us to have these results at the end. 1.3 is the concept or the main idea of your project and the applied methodology or the approach that you are going to apply or implement in order to move your idea from just an idea into achieving the objectives and the real impact at the end. And finally, 1.4, which is the ambition, and like what is the novelty of your idea, and it goes beyond the state of the art. For section 2, it is only 1 point under it. It's the expected impacts as mentioned in the work program. Here it is again very important not only to refer to the call text, but also you need to check the work program as well as the SRIA. General remarks for the pre-proposal, that it is 2 sections with equal attention, please, because at the end they will have equal scoring. So it's very important to pay attention for the 2 sections, because based on what we saw from some projects, that they used to use the majority of the pages, like 9 pages for the excellence and maybe less than 1 page for the impact. So it's very important to pay equal attention for the 2 sections. It's only 10 pages, so use it very wisely. Don't waste spaces for the implementation details, because this is something that you can elaborate it more during the second stage, and Marco will present in few seconds about different tables. Please make sure to quantify, and to put measurable KPIs and how you are going to measure this, because this reflects to the assessors how much you fully understand the area or the point that you are gonna to address or to tackle. So this is really very important, and you are also aware about planning and project management. This is one of the assessment of the capacity and the expertise of the coordinator and his team or her team, as well as the consortium. Use tables, figures, and diagrams, but not extensively. And we are going to share with you on session 6 some maybe ideas, which is out of the PRIMA template or guidelines. But this is just like some ideas or brainstorming from our side that we wanted to share with you. Present dissemination, communication, and exploitation plan, but in brief on the first stage. Show the rules and the complementarity between partners of your consortium, between you as a consortium and the external stakeholders, and with the end users, as well as with the public. Networking and synergize with other national or regional initiatives or other programs or bigger umbrella that is your project is also fitting or aligned with. Okay, I will finish here with just giving you a quick overview about what we finished so far. We discussed the pre-proposal stage, the 10 pages, and section 1, and for the first point, which is the excellence and the impact. And now I'm gonna pass the floor to Marco, who will explain to you the full application procedure and the new points that you need to consider for the full application. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed, for this recapitulation of the main points that we touched upon yesterday. I was trying to answer in the Q&A box. I saw that already we had some questions, and I don't know if there is time. I think we reached already 1:30, so I shall start with my presentation. Okay, so I'll share the screen with you. And we will start with this presentation on how to draft the full application. That is also what we call the second stage proposal. Okay, you should be able to see. Can you confirm, please, Mohammed or Reda? Yes. Okay. All right. So normally, as you know, it's only projects that are selected after the first stage that can obviously submit a full proposal. And obviously what happens is that we communicate the positive evaluation of the short proposal, and we give the instructions on when the online submission website system will be open again for the submission of the full application. Now, it's very important for you to know that time is very important. We launch calls every year, and we normally do the whole evaluation process very quickly compared with other programs. So it's very good that if you are selected for the second stage, you start immediately working on the full application. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, now, I won't spend too much time here on, especially on the excellence part, because Mohammed yesterday gave you really a lot of insights. And basically, when you are tackling the full application, what you should do is you should expand the contents of the first application. And since you know that the excellence and the impacts are very important, I'm sure that you understand that in the second application, since you will not just have 10 pages, but you will have 50, you will have much more space, much more content available to convince the evaluator that yours is a good proposal. So of course, it's good to remind you that for the excellence, we are looking at the methodology, the approach, the main objectives that can be the overall ones or specific ones, the main concept, let's say, behind the project. And also the excellence is the part where you have to demonstrate the novelty of your idea or the ambition of the project. That is how you can contribute with your research to going beyond the state of the art. That is more or less what we have in the excellence. Again, I won't spend much time here. Just I want to remind you that the evaluator will be looking at also what you promised in the first stage proposal, and he will look for additional information that maybe was not available in the first stage proposal. So here you have a chance to elaborate on what you promised in the first stage proposal, to make things more clear, to make things more appealing to the evaluator. Obviously, if you said during the first stage, you said that you will be giving more information on something during the second stage, the evaluator will not forget for sure. Because, of course, between the first stage and the second stage, we are very concerned about having a very transparent evaluation. So sometimes we also bring in some new experts that have not read the first stage proposal. And anyway, the first stage proposal is available to him or her, but we try and have a mix. Okay, so for sure there will be one expert or two that are very familiar with the projects already because they read them during the first stage. So avoid drastic changes, don't make a revolution, don't change things completely. Stick to what you have promised during the first stage and make it better. This is in a nutshell what your concern should be. Now, then we have the section 2, which is the impact. You already have it in the short proposal, but there are some differences which are quite important, because you know that the impact is very important, especially when you are submitting an innovation action project, because it gets the so-called weighting. Okay, so the score that you get for the impact is multiplied by 1.5 when during the second stage evaluation we are doing the final ranking of the proposal. So it's very interesting that to give you some information, additional information on the section 2 impact part of the proposal. And I'll go to that in a second. This slide shows you the parts of the full application that are not present in the short one. Okay, so you have 3 additional sections. That is section 3 implementation, section 4 members of the consortium, and section 5 ethics and security. Now, yesterday our objective was to give you a first introduction to some generic concepts. If you remember the session where I delivered a short presentation on the proposal drafting cycle, you can maybe remember that I introduced already some concepts, like, for example, the breakdown of the work plan into work packages, deliverables, and so on. And also some information about how you are going to arrange the organization of your consortium and the work among the project partners, and so on. Now we are going to go a bit more in detail, because yesterday it was kind of an introduction to these concepts. Now we are going to show you how these have to appear specifically in each part, in each section of the full application. And the information that we are giving you, they are also summarized in the template, okay? When you will go to the PRIMA website and you download, we have a section that we will be sharing with you with all the so-called reference documents. So the strategic research and innovation agenda, the guidelines, the PRIMA annual work plan, the call texts, the templates for writing the proposals, and so on. And when you download the templates, apart from having these sections that appear on the screen, you also have the instructions and some of the things that we are sharing with you. So don't worry, because it's kind of a guided template. You will find some guidance in the template itself. Okay, so I think we can move on, and this is the slide on the section 2 impact. So what are the main differences with the first stage application, with the short proposal? Now, of course, you still have the same expected impacts that you mentioned in the first one proposal, okay? These are the impacts that are in line. You remember that we said that you have to highlight the relevance of the proposal to the call, and obviously this you do it by showing that you will reach some of the expected impacts mentioned in the call itself. However, in this full application, again, you have more pages, you have more space, so you can give a different breadth to your proposal, and you can also include some impacts that are still relevant, let's say, to the mission, the vision of PRIMA, or for the sector that your proposal is tackling, but they're not explicitly mentioned in the call. For example, it may be that your project is focusing on wastewater treatment, okay? Just giving an example, it focuses on the optimization of technology for wastewater treatment, and the call obviously is about that, but you're also contributing to some other priorities of the strategic research and innovation agenda. Now, this doesn't mean that your project should be unfocused. You should always give priorities to the expected impacts mentioned in the specific call that you're addressing. However, if you can think of any additional benefit for the environment, for the economy, for the society that can arise for your project, and it is still within, let's say, the core goals of PRIMA, the core mission of PRIMA, you obviously can include it in your proposal. But again, the main priority is to tackle the expected impacts mentioned in the call. And yesterday, Mohammed showed you how a call text is organized in different parts. And obviously, you can also read, if you want, you can go to the website of PRIMA and you can read the call text. And you will see that the last part details all the expected impacts. Right. Now, you are focused, you know what are the expected impacts that can arise from your proposal. It is time to demonstrate that you're also going to tackle in a very good way what we call the dissemination and exploitation of project results and the communication of your project. These are, I remember myself, when a few years ago I started working on new projects, I wasn't really able to grasp this concept, to understand what was the difference between these three words. It's not actually very difficult, it's actually very straightforward, and everything starts from the fact that we don't want the project to end up with no impact. We want to maximize the results of the project and generate real benefits, as we said. And we do this not only by carrying out the scientific work, which is obviously the core of the project, but also by making it visible and making sure that anyone or any sector that can benefit from the project is aware of what the project is delivering, okay? Now, I have prepared this slide. I kind of separated dissemination and exploitation from communication. And I will start from the latter, from communication, because I think it's simpler than the other one. Now, by communication, if you look at the right side of the screen, I have divided these concepts into half and half of these slides, because I believe that communication, we may understand it as the promotion of the project to a wider, not necessarily specialized audience. Okay, so it means that still the communication activities are targeted, they are strategic, okay, because for sure it is your interest to reach a specific audience. However, we are talking, for example, of the general public or the media or anyone that could be interested in your project. And the main objective here is by organizing workshops, conferences, by having a website in place, by having a newsletter, by having a social media account that can communicate, can easily reach, for example, even a 15-year-old person that one day, inspired by your project, will take up a career in science. So this is addressing the whole general public to demonstrate that the funding that PRIMA is investing in your project, it is injected into an initiative which will contribute to tackle, for example, the challenges that yesterday we were mentioning, so that you're bringing about change, so that it's an investment in a good project that can change people's lives. Now, this may seem a bit like dreaming, but in actual fact, it is not, because we know very well how, for example, social media and the digitalization revolutionized all of our lives. And for sure, communication nowadays, it is much easier than before, okay? So it's much easier to reach a lot of people than it was before with just a simple post of, like on Twitter, with something relevant that you have done, about something relevant you have done within your projects in a 10-word sentence, okay? So communication is for, let's say, the wider audience, the non-specialists. It is not obligatory to include a detailed communication plan in the full proposal, but it's very important to still give details, to give information to the evaluator on what is the strategy that you are going to implement on communication. So you have to really list, for example, even by using, as Mohammed has said many times, some tables, you can obviously give information on how many workshops you plan to have, to target who, how many people, and so on. Okay, so that concerns communication, and I think we can move now to dissemination and exploitation. Please be aware that, again, this part is very important. Until maybe 15 years ago, these were a bit overlooked by scientists, okay? But we have seen, like from one framework program, from I'm talking about the EU framework programs for research, to the other, how much importance this section gained in time, okay? In fact, now you have specialists that is good also to have in your project, or there are some specific departments in companies or universities that are specialized in dissemination and exploitation and communication activities. Dissemination and exploitation, to go back to this concept, it's about making the results of your projects visible and actually exploited, used by, let's say, experts, specialists, and potential final users, final beneficiaries. So we are looking here, this is the main difference with the communication. You are looking at a more focused type of activities, a narrower public, okay? Like dissemination, for example, that we intend as the public disclosure of the results of your projects to various stakeholders can reach, for example, researchers, industry players, policymakers. So it's not like the non-specialized audience that we were mentioning before, okay? For example, a researcher will be inspired by the work that you have done in the area that he or she is studying. Okay, so it's is a specialist. She or she is a specialist, and they are interested in reading how you are contributing to going beyond the state of the art, what you are doing from the scientific point of view. Industry players, maybe the technology that you are developing, adapting to within the margins of your project, it has potential for scale up or for transfer in another country. And you may reach with your dissemination activities, for example, some investors that may help when the project is concluded, scale up or go to the market, okay? So here you need also different types of dissemination, different measures tailored for the specific player that you want to reach. Maybe it's a policymaker. Maybe you will produce a project brief to influence the policy making. It could be at national level, or maybe a project brief to kind of give guidance and suggest measures that can be implemented in your municipality or at regional level in a specific region of Turkey. So you may understand that your project is not just about science, but about understanding how much you can contribute to different sectors, to industry, to policy, to science itself, and reach those people or sectors that can find what you're doing interesting, okay? So it's about making use of the results. This is what we mean by exploitation, okay? Dissemination is making aware, disclosing such results to the stakeholders, and the exploitation itself is the actual use of the results during the project and after the project. And it could be, again, depending on who you want to reach, who you want to disseminate the results to. It could be for commercial purposes, for improving the policies, for tackling economic or societal problems. Maybe you will develop guidelines for the, I'm going back to the example of the wastewater reuse, treatment and reuse. You want to reach some specific communities of farmers, and you will produce guidelines that they will be able to, at a point, use and improve the way they do, for example, irrigation of crops with wastewater reused, okay? But it's important that you plan these activities since the very beginning of the project, and you involve these stakeholders, you disseminate the information to them, the results, and you also involve them in the process of maybe you make them aware of what you're doing with your project, so that you can get feedback from them, okay? Because eventually they are going to make use of your of what you're producing, and it's good to have if not the inclusion in the consortium, good relationship with potential stakeholders that they can take up your results. And dissemination and exploitation is very much important. Remember that for the full application, you need to include in the proposal itself a draft plan for the dissemination and exploitation of the project results. Okay, so this has to be included. We want it in draft form, and then you are going to develop within the first 6 months of the project, if it's selected. All right, I hope I was clear, and we can move to the next section, section 3, implementation. Yesterday, myself and Mohammed, and even Mohammed today during his recap session, we started talking about the work plan. That is the breakdown of the work into work packages, deliverables, and so on. Now, if you look at the screen, this is what you will see in the proposal template, okay? So you will have, the content has to be distributed into these subsections of the paragraph 3.1. You have, first of all, a brief presentation of the overall structure of the work plan, okay? This is the textual part. Then you obviously have to give the evaluator an understanding of how the work will be spread across the 3 years or 3.5 years of duration of your project. So how do you do this? By using a Gantt chart normally. Gantt charts are what is used in like 99% of the project proposals. You can use a similar one, but Gantt chart is widely accepted as the typical project management tool for representing the distribution of the work along the duration of the project. And later, Mohammed is going to show you what a Gantt chart is for those who are not familiar with this project management tool. Some of you may also remember that the first slide of the first presentation that I delivered, I mentioned the Gantt charts, the PERT chart, the theory of change. These are project management tools that are very important because they let you visually understand in a few seconds how the complexity of the project is distributed across time, across partners, okay, and how the resources are going to be used, and also the interrelation among all of these dimensions and elements. Don't worry, because all of this will be tackled by Mohammed with a very interesting presentation later. Okay, after the Gantt chart, you have the detailed work description, and we made it easy for you because you have 3 tables, one which lists the work packages, one which provides a full detailed description of each single work packages, and then you have a list of major deliverables. I will show you how these tables look like and give you some information on how to fill them. At the end, you have a graphical presentation of the components, that is work packages, deliverables, and so on, showing the interrelation. It's the PERT chart that I mentioned already before. To recapitulate, here your priority is to outline the logical structure of the project, how all the elements feed into each other, how they are interrelated between them, how the work is broken down into different stages. And this is why you have work packages, okay? Because at a point you may need the result of a single work packages to feed into another one, to carry out part of the work. So you have to give this understanding to the evaluator. I already told you, highlight the interrelation and the complementarities among the work activities. Remember that the work packages, the number and the resources allocated to each work packages in terms of time, in terms of person months that all the partners are going to be providing, they have to be commensurate to the scale of the project, the duration, and the effort, the work effort required, okay? So pay a lot of attention to how you're spreading the work between the partners, how much time you're allocating, how much resources, even financial, you're going to allocate. Right, this is the table that I mentioned before, table 3.1a, the list of work packages. It's very self-explanatory. We don't need to spend a lot of time here. You have to indicate the work package number, the title, the lead participant number, and the lead participant short name. The lead participant is also called the work package leader. So don't get confused if you see lead participant or work package leader, because it's the same thing. It's the partner which normally has the most expertise maybe that can be provided for a specific work package, and it's the partner that normally takes more of the initiative together, obviously with the coordinator, to coordinate the work activities within a specific work package with the other project partners. Okay. You have to show the person months, that is the amount of time that will be dedicated by all the partners. In this case, it's the total, okay? It's the total person months that the consortium is going to dedicate to a specific work package. And then you have the start month and the end month. In this case, you see M1 and M36, which stands for month 1 and month 36. But there may be, for example, a work package which starts at month 6 and finishes 6 months after. It really depends on the nature of the work, okay? And the results that you have to have and when do you have to have them. Here, I just included a couple of examples, like one work package dedicated to project management and one dedicated to communication and dissemination. These are normally included as work packages, dedicated work packages, to have a focused approach and to focus the work specifically on these activities. And but obviously there is, I mean, it's not an obligation, but it's a recommendation that you can take up if you wish. And there is no specific number of work packages, okay? So you may have, for example, 6, you can have 8, 9, it really depends on how you structure the work. You see here, I mean, I don't think I have to repeat it, but we want also to repeat sometimes because this is a training. So we really want you to understand what we mean by work package, deliverables, and so on. The terminology is very important. So work package, again, we mean a major subdivision of the proposed project. We are talking about work focused on a specific thematic within your project. And I forgot to say that obviously the other work packages will be dedicated to the scientific work that you carry. So project management and communication and dissemination are, let's say, cross-cutting activities that are normally implemented in every project, but you will have your specific work package on, for example, prototype testing, validation of the technology by the final users, and so on, okay? Now, you have listed in a single table all the work packages. Then we provide you table 3.1.b, the work package description. Now, this is not a single table. You need to use this table for each work package of your project. So you will have one for work package 1, one for work package 2, one for work package 3, and so on. You just copy paste this table and you use it for any work package included in the previous table. In this table, you will provide more detailed information. You can include, in fact, the objectives, the description of the work, okay, and what is done in this part that you see here, description of the work at the bottom of the slide. You can break down the work into tasks, okay. You can indicate the lead partner and the role and the contribution that every participant will give. Normally, for example, we have a description of the work with task 1, sorry, if we are, for example, in a work package number 4, we have the description of the work. So we have the whole list of tasks. Task 4, because we are in work package 4.1. We will have a second task, task 4.2, and so on. Again, this is the part which well, it's not the more exciting for you to write and for the evaluator to read, but obviously it's after you spoke about the general approach, the general methodology, the general vision of the project in the excellence. You spoke about what you're going to achieve in the impact. Here, you are giving the detailed information on how the work really concretely is going to be carried out. So here, for you, I think it's going to be the very interesting part of the project when it comes to structuring things, deciding who does what, who's got the responsibility for some specific part of the work, and so on. And then you have the deliverables, okay? We are going to go to the explanation of the deliverables with the next slide. Here, what I want to tell you is that for each work package, you are going to have some outputs, okay? So the output is basically comes from the work that you carry out, from the tasks for the work packages. So you have to indicate these outputs, okay? And we will see what they are. There are different categories, even in the work package description table. You have to indicate you have to describe them shortly, the title of the deliverable, what it is, and the month when it will be ready for submission to PRIMA. And obviously, even here, you can use the structure that we mentioned before. So if we are in work package number 4, you can call the deliverables deliverable 4, then point, and you include an additional number. So you may have deliverable D4.1, D4.2, and so on. So let's look at what actually the deliverables are, okay? You included them already in the work package description because for each work package you have some outputs, some deliverable. So now let's see what type of outputs you may have. As you can see here, look at the bottom part of the screen. You will see the definition of deliverable. It is an output generated by the project. It contributes to the achievement of the overall objectives of the project or some specific objective of the project, and it can be of different nature. It can be a report, it can be a document, it could be a prototype validated, it could be a technical diagram, it could be a website, anything which helps you progress towards the achievement of your objectives of the project is considered an output or deliverable, okay? And you can have obviously different types as well of dissemination level and different types of deliverables that can also all of them, they can be summarized in this table, okay? Again, on the left side you put the deliverable number, the deliverable name, the work package number, the related work package, okay? The name of the lead participant, who is the main person or organization, let's say, that will contribute to the production, the creation of this deliverable. Then, when it comes to type, you have what we called R, type R, okay, which is normally for documents and reports, okay. Then you have DEM, that stands for demonstrators, pilots, prototype, and so on. Then we have DEC, that stands for dissemination, exploitation, communication. So it's basically websites, press and media actions, videos, and so on, or other. So anything which doesn't fit, you know, in the categories that I just mentioned, you can indicate as other. So this would be the type. For the dissemination level, obviously, you know that sometimes there are IPR issues involved, or maybe ethical reasons for which obviously the dissemination cannot be 100% public, okay? So in case the deliverable is fully accessible by everyone, it's public, it's fully open, you can indicate dissemination level PU, which stands for public. If it's confidential instead, you can use the acronym CO, okay? So access irrestricted under conditions that you will have listed in the grant agreement that you will sign, okay, with PRIMA. And this is the case especially when intellectual property rights are concerned. If it's instead classified, okay, according to what is established by the decision of the Commission of 2001, you should use the acronym classified. Now, it's not really, we're not going into detail here, but for you, it's very important to know that there are different types of deliverables and different types of dissemination level, okay? To conclude, in the right part of the table, you have the delivery date, when the month of the project, when the deliverable will be submitted. Now, we are still in the section number 3. We have indicated the breakdown of the activities. We have spoken about the deliverables. Now we are talking about the management structure and the management procedure. We are now entering the organizational part of the project. By management structure, we mean who is responsible for the management of the project. And by management procedure, we mean how this management will be done. All of you know that the coordinator is the main manager, but he's not the only one, because a consortium has to have management structures and procedures in place, because every single partner takes ownership of the project, which means contributes to the management itself, okay? So in this section, basically, you see that there are 4 bullet points. This is, again, what you see in the template. So it's a guided application. You will replace the text that you see here with your description, okay? The description, the content that you have to provide here is about, you have to convince the evaluator that you have some good structures in place, some good organization to guarantee that the decision making and any management issues that will arise within the project, you are ready to face them and or you are ready to minimize or avoid any management issues. You will see also that one of the bullet points speaks about innovation management. Okay, innovation management is not only about having some arrangements between the partners to handle the intellectual property rights, but innovation management, and you can also, I think, look on the website of the European Commission. You will find more content there. It's more about having expertise within your project, having maybe an innovation manager. This is a figure which became very popular during the last few years. Having someone competent when it comes to managing innovation. You are going to generate innovation in your project. You may have some ideas that at a point will generate the impact that we were mentioning before. Maybe you're convinced that how the work that you are doing to improve a technology has potential to make it to the market. So you need to have within your project someone who takes the responsibility for looking at how the development of these innovative ideas, okay, can successfully be transferred to the market or to society. So managing innovation is about this, is about taking the seeds of innovation that you have within your project and making sure that you make these seeds grow. It's not just about having some arrangements for intellectual property between the partners. So, consider also how you're going to manage innovation, how you can accompany your innovative ideas to the market even after the end of the project. Management also is about risks. Projects are different. I think we have almost 200 people connected. Most of your scientists from or companies which work in the fields that we mentioned, water systems, agriculture, agro-food, but obviously these sectors are linked, but they also have differences. So different risks can arise connected to the type of project that you are going to implement, okay? So make sure that when you submit your proposal, you have carefully spoken with your partners and thought carefully about what risks can arise during the duration of the project. You have to have a risk management plan. You have to have maybe, you can have a table, okay? There is actually one in the template where you can indicate the risks that can materialize, the likelihood, and the mitigation measures. I will show it to you very soon, okay? Just to conclude, what the evaluator will look at is if you clearly established some lines of responsibility across the consortium, between the partners. The coordinator has to be strong, someone maybe with a good track record. We also have coordinators that are first-time coordinators in the projects that we funded. But the most important thing is decision-making and management. Everyone in the consortium has to be clear in terms of what he or she is responsible has to do when it comes to management. And we want to provide you some examples. This is not part of the PRIMA official template. It's just here an example that we want to give you for, because we are training you, but it's a very common organization of the management structure in transnational EU-funded projects. And you can see that you have on the left side of the screen the project management structure. These are very classical, but don't be afraid to be innovative and to add other management structure to your project. So on the left side of the screen, you see that we have the project coordinator supported by a project management unit or project management board, okay? We have an external advisory board, and then we have the technical steering committee, which is normally composed by one representative for each work package leader. You remember that I just spoke a few minutes ago of the work package leaders that are basically those partners who have the leadership for the implementation and coordination of specific work packages. Now, what are the tasks and responsibilities? How do these different project management structures contribute to the management of the project, and to which dimensions? For sure, everyone knows that the project coordinator is the one who provides the scientific leadership. He supervises the overall implementation of the project activities. He has to make sure that the project is doing the things that were promised on time, that the project is going well, is proceeding well towards the achievement of the objectives and the milestones, that is the outputs and some specific reference point, let's say, that the project may have. He is also the main point of contact between the funder, that is PRIMA, and the consortium. So normally the partners, they don't, the partners of a funded project, they don't speak directly with PRIMA. It is the coordinator who overlooks the whole communication process and gets in touch with the PRIMA office whenever even a single partner has a problem, okay? So the project coordinator, main point of contact between the consortium and PRIMA. The project coordinator is not obviously almighty, so he needs a good project manager and a good project management unit to support him or her, okay? In the day-by-day management of the project, because there are a lot of things which are not, I mean, the project coordinator will have this role of overlooking the progress of the project, but there are a lot of details, legal, financial, linked to the reporting activities to PRIMA, the administrative aspects that obviously need some support, and only a project management unit, which is normally a dedicated unit within the same institution of the project coordinator, can do this kind of things. So obviously it's for supporting the coordinator, and the project management board or project management unit normally facilitates as well communication between the partners on behalf of the coordinator, sends obviously important updates, provides logistical support for the organization of meetings, and so on, okay? So project coordinator and project management unit are obviously from the coordinating entity in the consortium. Obviously, the consortium is the project has started, okay? The project it's going well. However, apart from the feedback that you can receive from PRIMA along the implementation of the project, it's also important to have some external feedback, okay? And this is what normally is provided by an external advisory board. When the project starts, it's good to have defined a group of people that normally are external experts, external specialists, who are not involved in the actual implementation of the projects, but due to their expertise, due to their experience, their background, and the fact that they can evaluate the project from an external point of view, an external perspective, they can give you some good feedback to improve things. Now, what do we mean by improve things? Normally, in external advisory board, you have representatives of the business, other scientists with you know, that are renowned because they are well acknowledged in their scientific field because they are excellent. You may have a representative of international organizations working in the field that obviously your project is tackling. Why is it important to have this feedback and this constant evaluation of what you are doing within your project by someone who is not really involved in it? Because this can also maximize the opportunities of your project, okay? Having external experts who are maybe working in the same field as you, it may open your eyes on some potential you know, results of your project that you haven't really foreseen. So it's really good to have this kind of external advisory board in place and to have different types of expertise in it, different stakeholders from different sectors or background. But the trait in common they should have, it should have that they are experts, that they can evaluate your project, they can obviously familiarize with the activities that you are you know, putting in place, and they can evaluate the project and they can kind of contribute to the improvement of the project. Now, to conclude this slide, a technical steering committee, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a committee which has to steer. It has a steering role. They have to obviously steer the implementation of the project activities, and who is in this technical steering committee. The technical steering committee, as I said before, it's normally we have the work package leaders, okay? So one representative per work package leader, and this is a body restricted because when normally there are technical steering committee meeting, every, for example, 6 months, every 4 months, every year, you will decide when the technical steering committee has to meet. The main objective is to discuss coordination of project activities, okay? So every partner is on track, discuss operational aspects, make sure that if there is, for example, any conflict between the partners, these can be discussed because it's a limited board. So it's a limited group, and there is a representative for each work package leader. And obviously, it's a restricted group which can talk about coordination, risk management, conflict management, improvement of project activities, and so on. So it is really a very important committee, a very important body, let's say, structure to have in your project. Again, this is just for giving you a basic outline of how you can address the management dimension of your project, but you are free, for example, to have additional boards, additional committees, and so on. You can have an ethics committee if your project, for example, raises some ethics issues. You can have an innovation committee if you think that you have very good expertise in your project to manage innovation. And for example, it's good to have some internal meetings to tackle this aspect, to manage innovation. You may have an innovation committee. Please feel free also to be innovative when you draft your proposal. Normally, what evaluators like is a commission, like a mix of a classical approach for a project, so classical presentation of the project, how you draft the proposal, classical management structure, and some new ideas. I mean, this is a good mix to capture the attention of the evaluator. Full application table 3.2. We are still in the same paragraph before. This is the list of milestones. It's very similar to the deliverable table, so I will not really spend much time here. I will just tell you what a milestone is. A milestone is a control point. A milestone is a specific point in time which helps you chart the advancement, the progress of your project. So when you complete, for example, a key deliverable, which is fundamental to go to the second stage of the project, for example, that can be also considered a milestone. It's a specific point in time that you identify as important to, because you reach, or maybe you conclude a specific phase of the project and you can move to the next one, or because a very fundamental result is achieved within the implementation of your project. So it could be, for example, I included here a couple of classical milestones. The kickoff meeting, okay, very simple, which is when it's important. Why? Because it's normally during the first month of the project. So it's really the start. It's about the start of the project. You may have, for example, an annual project review meeting with your partners after one year. And that could be another milestone, but it really depends on the project, and you can have different milestones. You could have, for example, if you look at the table, normally we have in the proposal there are, for example, 15 milestones or 10 milestones that are considered as very important points during the implementation of the project. Okay. Means of verification, what does it mean? It really depends on the nature of the milestone, but verification means verification that the milestone has been reached, has been achieved. You can also use indicators if that's the case. For example, if a milestone in your project is that you achieved, the milestone is that a laboratory prototype has been attained and it is up and running, that could be also a means of verification, so that the prototype is up and running. Or you have to deliver a field survey once it has been completed and the data quality was validated maybe by the users involved. That is also a means of verification. So you have to demonstrate that such milestone has been reached, and you have to choose the means of verification based on the type of milestone. And this is very shortly the table of risks that I mentioned before. You identify the risk, you indicate how likely it is that there is obviously that this risk materializes. It could have low probability, medium probability, or high probability. you have to indicate how much it will impact in case it happens, your project, so low impact, medium impact, or high impact. The work packages that may be affected by the risk, it could be one work package, two or more. And obviously, you have, apart from giving a description of the risk itself, you have to propose some risk mitigation measures. And here I just gave you an example. For example, we said that the projects are really you know, multidisciplinary, that you should look at the involvement of different stakeholders. Sometimes you may fail in engaging stakeholders for maybe validating the outputs of your project. So what is a proposed risk mitigation measure? And I gave you an example. In this case, I imagined a project consortium that signed some memorandum of understandings to guarantee that the stakeholders are engaged, the stakeholder associations, maybe it could be, let's say, farmers associations, they are engaged and they will participate maybe in the workshops, in meetings with project partners during the duration of the project, okay? That was just an example. Here, again, I won't spend much time. You have to break down the number of person months per participants and per work package so that you will have, at the right side of the screen, you will have the total person months per participant, okay? And at the bottom of the table, you will have the total person months per work package. I mean, you can spend some time on it later when you check the full proposal template. And then a very small table for the other direct cost items. Even here, I don't want to give you too much information because we are going to have a detailed section that Pau, our colleague, will be delivering on how to fill out the budget template, which is separate from this document that we are looking at now. There is just this small table dedicated to travel, equipment, and other goods and services costs, where you have to provide the cost itself and the justification. For example, travel, you're planning to have in total, I don't know, I'm just giving you an example, a few thousands of euros dedicated to travel, and you justify by saying how many travels for how many meetings and so on, okay? Section 4, very quickly, this is another important you know, part of the application, because here you have two paragraphs. Third parties, it's I'm not going to go very much in detail because there is just a simple table that you can look at. If you plan to have some third parties involved in the project that are not obviously the normal partners, what is very important is to give a very good description of the participants, of the organizations that are going to carry out the project, because this section is, it's also where the evaluators are very curious because they see who is really working on the project, who are the members of the teams for each partner. So this section is what is used by the evaluator to assess the so-called operational capacity of the consortium. So the main question that the evaluator is asking himself or herself is, do the project partners have enough expertise, enough competence, enough experience to manage and to implement such a complex project? Do they have enough complementarity between them? Is there any overlap, okay? Is there any lack of expertise, or is it a very well assembled consortium that, as we said a few times, has partners from different backgrounds? All of them, they can provide an added value. All of them, they fill the gap in terms of expertise, okay? So this is where you have to demonstrate that you are a good consortium, multidisciplinary, complementary, and that the members of the teams, of the scientific teams, have enough expertise. So in this section, what you have to provide is a description of the organizations, okay, and the main tasks, and this has to be done for each partner. Short biographies or curricula for each member of the teams. So, for example, if you're in a company, the principal investigator, which would be the leader of the team, so some information about him or her, the biography and a short CV, and the other team members. For each partner, if there are any publications, achievements, past projects connected to the project that you are presenting and connected with the goal that you are applying to. If the specific partner is contributing to the projects by providing some important infrastructure or equipment or items that will be key for the implementation of the project. Okay, so again, section 4, very important. It's another, after with the abstract, we said it's like your business card. This is the full, you know, it's like having a dinner with the evaluator where you are fully introducing all the members of the consortium. Okay, it's very important. So just to, I skipped the part of the ethics. There is a fifth part of the template which focuses on the ethics, but I think it's not worth to go much in detail. You can just look at it by downloading the templates. So just to recapitulate very quickly, I'm just showing on the screen the criteria for research and innovation actions and innovation actions, because as we said, the coordination and support actions, which are the third type of project that we fund, it's not very common that we fund this type of projects, this type of calls. So we stick to research and innovation actions, RIAs, and innovation actions, RIA. So again, you will be evaluated based on 3 criteria: the excellence, maximum 5 points for them. What we look at under excellence is the fitness with the scope of, and the objectives of the PRIMA program and the call. Okay, the relevance and pertinence and clarity of the objectives, how sound your concept is, and how credible the methodology and approach is, how the project will bring in innovation, contribute to move the state of the arts and so on, so the innovation potential and so on, and the existence of interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary approaches. Okay, this would be under the excellence part. The impact, again, we said the expected impacts mentioned in the work plan, in the call, or maybe even those which are not mentioned specifically in the call, but they are still relevant to the vision, mission of PRIMA. And also remember, for the full application, very important to detail the measures on exploitation and dissemination of the project results and the communication activities. This is very important. Quality and efficiency of implementation. Okay, the last part that I mentioned, the clear breakdown of the work plan, how the resources are going to be used in time by the different partners, both in terms of person months and financial resources, appropriate management structures and procedures. And I gave you some examples of the management, typical traditional management structures that a project, a transnational project has in place. You have to demonstrate the complementarity and the expertise of the participants, okay? And demonstrate that everyone has a valid role, enough expertise to carry out the work, and there is this complementarity, as I said before, okay? Very last slides. Again, this is not part of the official template of PRIMA, but it's good for you to use this kind of table if you want. It's up to you. And not only at proposal writing stage, but even before, when you are conceptualizing your project, when you are preparing maybe a project brief, when you are at the very beginning of the project. We said that it's very important, the impact for us, okay? So how do you achieve impact? We discussed also the importance of reaching the main stakeholders, some potential users of the results of your project. So of course, before you work on the dissemination and exploitation of results, you have to have very clear in your mind who are potential sectors and potential beneficiaries that can take up the results of your project. And this table, for example, helps you when you're preparing a small project brief at the very beginning of the process, okay? It's a very simple table which details the overall objectives of the project, the specific ones, and links them with some target groups or final beneficiaries, okay? For which, obviously, you can identify the specific needs and constraints and how your proposal is relevant to them, how your proposal is going to address such needs and constraints, and how the results of your proposals are going to help support these sectors or target groups or final beneficiaries. Sometimes, you know, terminology confuses us. what do we mean by stakeholders? What do we mean by target groups? What do we mean by final beneficiaries? Stakeholder is a, let's say, wider concept that means everyone who has an interest, everyone who has a stake in your project. Here, we are refining a bit the concept because we are talking of target groups that are specifically, and you see the definition in this little box that is at the bottom of the slide. Target groups are those groups, entities, that will benefit directly from the project, and obviously I can give you, for example, an example of what I mentioned before. If you are going to develop some guidelines for irrigation with wastewater treatment for farmers in your local area or at basin level, those guidelines can be obviously of benefit for this target group, that is the farmers. Differences with final beneficiaries is that while the target group directly benefits from some outputs of your project, final beneficiaries are those which will benefit for the project, but indirectly, let's say. So it could be society at large or a sector at large. Imagine that you have instead another type of projects, which, for example, helps reduce the final cost of a specific of local produce. Let's say that it's a project tackling an agro-food call. So by optimizing the value chain, the agro-food value chain, you will manage to reduce also the cost of the final cost of the produce for the consumers. So these instead would be the final beneficiaries, because we are talking of society at large. And I think that was the final slide. I know that we are giving you a lot of information, and we are sharing a lot of contents. And obviously, it's very challenging to pack all of this content in, you know, especially with this format. We are speaking to you online. We don't have time for like practice session and so on. So I hope everything was clear. But obviously, we are going to have also question and answer sessions later. So if anything I said you want me to expand on it, we can obviously do it. And I don't know if Mohammed has additional comments on the contents that we just shared. So I finish here and I give the floor to the next speaker.
Okay, thanks a lot, Marco. In fact, yeah, while you were presenting your presentation, we received a lot of very interesting questions. Maybe just we will give, I don't know, Eda, if we can give now like a short question and answer session, because we expect there are a lot of questions.
Yes.
Okay, so we can give the floor to Donos Ermizer. Yes, thank you. Yes, we can hear you, yeah.
We can hear you.
So it seems, okay, okay.
Maybe they raised their hand by mistake.
Okay, just to answer a question, very interesting question that we received about the budget. As Marco said, and also in the morning, we said that we will have a very specific session for how to draft your budget and budgeting your project. And it's going to be presented by the PRIMA financial manager, Mr. Paul. Okay, in the last table, there is a question. Maybe we can answer it here. In the last table, what should we write under the column of relevance of the project? Is there any grade?
I think maybe Mohammed
share your presentation again, Marco?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Because I don't understand which table you were referring.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I think it's the table that we shared about the target groups and final beneficiaries. Yes. So relevance of the proposal, again, this is not part of the official PRIMA template. It's more a project, let's say, drafting tool that you can use. And then you are free also to use this one, or a bullet point list, a list of bullet points when you want to highlight in the proposal who the target groups and final beneficiaries are. What we proposed here, when we say relevance of the proposal, is obviously, as you can see, you have needs and constraints, and then relevance of the proposal. So it should be that part about explaining obviously why and how your proposal is relevant to a specific target group or final beneficiary, because it can help address the specific needs and constraints of such group. I hope it was more clear now. Okay.
Yes, it's she said, or Oslam, he said thanks. Okay, so I think it's clear.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, no more questions so far. So,
I guess not.
so what do you prefer to do now, to give the break, or should we go to the session 6?
It's up to you. If you're tired, we can take a break.
No, we are fine. It depends on our dear participants.
Maybe it was.
You know that we are very democratic in the workshop. So, okay.
Please, we have a request for a break.
Let's have a 10-minute break. Yeah.
Okay, little break. Okay, yeah, 10 minutes. Okay,
so we will be back here at 2:40. 2:40.
Okay. See you in 10 times, and thanks everyone.
See you.
Thank you. So, hello again, everybody. Now we will start the last part of our workshop. Now we will start with session 6, which is providing you some tips and tricks, or maybe some suggested figures or diagrams or tools that may help you to draft your proposal. It's very important to mention here that just one second. Okay. Okay, so it's recording. Perfect. Just to highlight here that the next slides is not part of the PRIMA templates, but as we indicated here at the footnote of this slide, but it is just some tools, as I said, that may help you to draft your idea and to draft your proposal. But it is up to you for sure to use it partially or totally, or maybe invent something relevant, more relevant to your project. So it is totally up to you. Okay, we will start with the what is the meaning of the logic framework matrix and the theory of change, and how to develop a Gantt chart or PERT diagram, and work packages and task allocation, some useful tables and diagrams or charts. And we will finish with something that is really interesting to see in some projects, especially if it is an innovation action, which to have like tentatively or in a brief business model canvas or a business plan. And we are going to go through these points now. Okay, the first point is the logic framework matrix, or to develop like a theory of change diagram for your project. It is very important to reflect to the assessor that you fully understand the challenges of the problem that you are going to address, and your project is 100% aligned with this problem, and it is going to improve the situation of this problem. So the first, or one of the interesting tools to use, is to develop like a problem tree or a cause-effect analysis of the problem in order to discover the main reasons or the roots of this problem and its effect on the countries that you are going to address, on the target groups or the beneficiaries that you are going to address in your project, or maybe at the national level or regional level or by sectoral one. And then the second step is to transfer or to show to the assessor how your project are going to move the current negative situation into a positive situation through your project and through your innovative solution that you are going to develop by your or within your project. So it is very important as well to highlight the possible impacts and again the indicators and the measurements of these indicators, and what are the possible outputs and activities or deliverables of your project. Because at the end, your project are gonna to be like the pathway between the negative situation and the positive situation that you are gonna to achieve at the end of your project. And then you translate this into some tools or matrices like the log frame matrix or the LFM. Just in a brief, the structure of this log frame, it's you start with the impact. Maybe I can use the annotation or the spotlight here to explain. Okay, so you start at the first line with the impact, which is like the general objective of your project. And then you break it down into a set of main outcomes, or this is like the ultimate impact or the ultimate goal of your project. It can be like the specific objective as well of your project. And then you break it down into a set of outputs aligned to this or will serve this main outcome, and then a set of activities that will lead to these outputs. On the next slide, okay, maybe it's going to be more clear that you start from the left hand here with the impact or general objectives or the main purpose of your project, which is the long-term impact or the positive change that your project are going to achieve at the end. And then the second, and also you indicate for sure the indicators, the baseline and the target that you wanted to achieve, and the means of verification, how you are going to verify that you achieved your goal. And then the second line, you break it down this general objective into a set of specific objectives. And as Marco presented in session 5, you use maybe some abbreviation like for outcome, you can number it like OC1 or specific objective SO1 or whatever. Because remember that on the first stage, you have a limitation in the pages. So it is wise to use some abbreviation. Like for instance, if your specific objective is like 2 lines long. So you need to, for every time to highlight or to mention these 2 lines, because you will waste for sure some spaces. So if in the beginning that you number this specific objective 1 like SO1, and then throughout the documents, like referring to different work packages or outputs, you can just refer to SO1 or SO2, and then the evaluators will match between this and the one that you have already presented in the beginning of the document. And then the outputs or deliverables, like the tangible outputs of your project, like you are gonna to have like one solution, or specific reports or studies or a platform or a website. So this is the achievement that you are going to have. And finally, the related activity that you are going to implement, which is you are translating the work packages or the subtasks into a set of, or you can use exactly the same. It can be like activities, or you can name it like work packages or tasks. And these tasks and these activities will lead to the deliverables or the outputs, and these outputs are gonna to reflected on the specific objective and then later to the general objective. You can use as well another approach which is called the value chain analysis or the result chain analysis as well. Like you start with some inputs, you have like a knowledge or resources and so on, and then the activities, and then the outputs, then the outcomes and the impact. So it is up to you to use the most appropriate and or the most convenient one for your idea. Okay, and what is also very important here is to quantify the indicators and the means of verification. It is not important for us, for instance, to, or it is up to you for sure, to mention the baseline or the targets. But for instance, if your objective, for instance, is to increase the efficiency of water irrigation for the small farmers by 20%. So this is the indicator and this is the target. And how are you gonna to verify this? Like you have a questionnaire or a survey or feedback from the farmers who are gonna to use this solution. Or just another example that if you are gonna to have biofertilizers, for instance, in the farming project. So in this case, the indicator will be and the targets will be the number of final products or commercialized products that you will develop, and maybe the means of verification can be the registration number of these products, because for sure you cannot enter to the market without having the national approval and the respecting the national regulations for sure. So maybe the registration number can be a means of verifying that you succeeded to achieve this, like 2 or 3 biofertilizers as you promised. Another approach is to develop a theory of a change. And this is also very interesting because it can summarize, and here on the top, you can see that maybe we recommended where to put or where to develop these tools or diagrams. The theory of change, you started with the problem analysis or the rationale of your project. Then you start from the bottom, by the way, okay? And then the inputs, which is the resources or the knowledge that you have. Then the set of work packages or the activities that you are gonna to implement throughout your project. And each one of these will have a specific output or specific deliverables, for instance. And here we are talking about the main deliverables, not just reports, but maybe here it can be like final products, for instance, or the platform or services, or the tracing software, for instance, okay? And all these outputs are gonna to lead to the main outcomes, which will lead at the end to the impact. So within this diagram, you can summarize to the assessors what are the impact pathway of your project and how you are gonna to, at the end, fulfill the requirements or the expectation of the PRIMA topic and the SRIA, the national priority, as well as the SDGs or any others as well. It depends on your project and the scope of it. You also highlight here like how you are gonna to achieve what you promised and why these outputs are really essential, because it's related to a specific outcome, and the greater or the highest why, which is the long-term impact of your project. And for sure, within your project, there are some assumptions, for instance, like the engagement of the stakeholder. It's really essential at the level of the activities. In order to guarantee that I will develop at the end the so valuable product that can be really penetrate to the market. And maybe at the level of like between outputs and outcomes, there might be like another assumption about that the public authorities in Turkey will approve and will register the final product that I'm going to develop, and so on. The risks, as Marco presented in session 5, it's the external factors that may affect negatively your project. So these are some concerns that you need to consider while drafting your proposal, because you need as well to do some mitigation or some measurements in order to overcome or bypass these issues. Another set of very useful tool that you can develop is the Gantt chart, which is presenting or indicating the action plan for your action. There are several ways of presenting this, or several format or templates. You can even invent your own. For instance, this is one of the Europe 8, for instance, template that you need to break down the activities of the first year into the first half of the year and the second half. Who are the involved partners for this activity, for instance, or for this work package? And you highlight here the duration or the months to fulfill this or to finish this activity. Or maybe you can have another, maybe more detailed one that you have like work package 1, for instance, the work package name, and then the years. And this is like the months, or you can number it like from M1 to, for instance, from M1 to M6, for instance, to finish the 1.1 or task 1.1, and then 1.2. And there are some overlapping between some tasks, as we can see here. And at the end, you can put like the main milestones. You can just put M1 and M2, and then the assessors will return back to the table of the milestones to check what you mean by this. And also the list of deliverables, due dates. So this means that at month 6, for instance, deliverables like D1.2 and 1.22 and 1.23 are going to be developed and delivered in this due date, for instance. So, and there are like so many ways and templates and also software that can help you to draft your Gantt chart. Just an example that you can add, for instance, a column here to include as well the involved partners, and maybe another column for the work package leader for this work package or for this task. So it is up to you for sure. But we are just giving you some useful instructions about this. The PERT diagram, it's another way to summarize the main tasks and the work packages, and the most important, the relation or the dependency between these tasks. Okay, so for instance, just an example, and here we put like an example of an IT solution, for instance, that as Marco presented, that we have a dedicated work package for coordination and project management, and the work package leader, it's partner 1 or the coordinator, and all partners are involved. And then we have 3 work packages in parallel, which is the sensor development, for instance, and the work package leader is partner 3, and partners 1, 2, 4 are involved in this work package. Then the hardware development, the work package leader is partner 2, and partners 3, 4, 5 are involved in this. And finally, the software development. And then you have a specific work package to integrate the outputs or the deliverables of all these 3 work packages into a single solution, for instance. So there is like this dependency between work package 5 and the 3 above work packages for the integration, and the leader again and the partners. And finally, technology implementation plan and testing, for instance, and the fine tuning. This is a way, and for sure there is something missing here, which is another cross-cutting or horizontal work package, which is dissemination and communication. Okay, this can be, for just a suggestion from our side, this can be for stage 1, maybe under the excellence part. Okay, and for stage 2 can be under the implementation. Maybe you can put this PERT diagram at the introductory part of the implementation, and then you use the PRIMA table and templates to break it down into several work packages and describe the details of each one of these. But this diagram is just giving, in a very brief way, to the assessors the layout or the framework of your project. This is just another example of the PERT diagram and its relation between the different work packages and the management team and the coordination and the project management, as Marco presented, its relation to the direct communication and interaction, innovation and exploitation, and data management, for instance. It's like a cross-cutting, and the relation with the external stakeholders and the PRIMA. And this is another set of tables, maybe useful for you as well to summarize, and this can be used for the first stage under the excellence, for instance, for the applied methodology under 1.3, the concept and the methodology, or it can be under during stage 2 for the full proposal, the implementation. Here, for instance, you can summarize the work package and its leader. So work package 1, for instance, and its leader, it is partner 1. And then the subtasks and its numbering, the timeline for each one of these subtasks. So you can see here, start from month 1 till month 8, the responsible partner for this task and any involved partners, and you can just summarize here briefly the main deliverables. One of the tips or tricks that sometimes if you develop this over or during the first stage, and then you prepare it like on an Excel, and then you copy pasted it on side the Word, it's going to be editable in this case, and it will take a larger space. So just a trick here that you can transfer into an image if it is final. So you can transfer it to a page or a photo, and then you can crop it or resize it. And in this case, it's going to be very clear, and it will take a smaller space, especially during the first stage. So this is one of the tricks for developing or saving some spaces, especially during the first stage. Also, another way or some useful tables that may help you as well, and this is like the sequence of the development. As just an example to summarize the table that we shared with you over the 2 days. For instance, you start with the PRIMA topic challenges and the scope. You start with like the core challenges, the PRIMA 3 objectives, and the topic scope, specific or challenges specific to your project, and what responses your project are gonna to do in order to fulfill these requirements. So you can summarize, you can copy paste here on the left column, like some key sentences from the call text or from the PRIMA 3 or from the call topic or the topic scope or challenges, as I highlighted yesterday, how to analyze the call text. And then you respond to each one of these important sentences to show to your to the assessor that your project is fitting to what is PRIMA looking for. And maybe the next step, as we said as well yesterday, that it is very important to explain to the assessor the technology that you are gonna to use or the expertise that you already have, the initial TRL, the developed solution that you are gonna to achieve, and what would be the final TRL. So the assessors can see the development or the progress of your project. And you know for sure better than us that for a project, you are not gonna to depend mainly on one single solution, but maybe it is like a set of solutions or a set of integrated technologies and solutions. Maybe some of these technologies you start at the lower TRL, but at the end you will find or you are going to progress or advance these solutions at the end of the project. And then, as Mark already presented to you, you can as well classify the target groups and the beneficiaries. And what is also very important as well, to quantify, like for instance, I'm gonna to operate as a final beneficiaries with 3 milk producers from Turkey and Egypt and Spain, for instance. And what are the challenges or demands that they are facing so far, and how my project are gonna to fulfill the requirements, or like for instance, decreasing the cost or increasing the efficiency of the production and so on. So it's very important because this can be like part of the impact, for instance, during the first stage or the second stage, and it's gonna to highlight to the assessors why my project is really important and will be so effective to those target groups. Just another example of the communication, like some actions, like we are going to develop a website, or develop some booklets, we are going to organize some workshops. You need again to quantify, like, okay, one website, for instance, 1,000 booklets for workshops, and then the target audience, like for whom we are developing these communication actions or these communication tools. It's very important to be very specific. And for sure, just because this is one of the questions that during the implementation, for sure, you can adjust this. For instance, if you promise to have like 1,000 booklet, but at the end, you realize that you need only maybe 500. So Pau in the session 7 will tell you how to do this like budget allocation and how to submit like an amendment for us. And just another summary, but this is already presented, like the summary of the work packages and the start date, end date, the responsible partners, and the main deliverables or outputs. Some useful charts, which is really appealing to the assessor to see, Just as an example, that maybe at the end you finish your project, you finish your proposal, especially for the full application. So you wanted to polish your proposal to be more attractive to the assessor. So there is no problem at all to like summarize, like, okay, for the gender balance for our project, for the management, like 50% of the decision makers and the principal investigators are females and 45% are males, just an example. Or you can do the same as well for the resources committed or the budget sharing inside the application, that, okay, 40% of the budget will be allocated to the MPC countries like Turkey, Egypt, Tunisia, Israel, and so on, and 60% for the EU countries. Or you can do as well work packages, budget breakdown, like for work package 1, for work package 2, and the percentage of the distribution of the fund, because the assessors, and the last one is very important, because the assessors will match the tasks and the activities that you promised in the table of the deliverables and table of activities for the work packages with the allocated budget. So it's very important to make sure, yes, it's relevant. Like, okay, yeah, work package 4, it's very long, and a lot of activities are going to be done through this or within this work package, and the coordinator and the consortium fully aware about this, so they allocate enough financial resources and time for this work package. So this is very important as well, to summarize to the assessor that you fully understand how to manage a project. The last part is the business model canvas and business plan. As I said, that this is for sure not part of the PRIMA template, but for some brilliant ideas, or this might be one of the brilliant ideas that can really summarize to the assessors that the applicants and the consortium fully aware about the business or how to market the final product, especially if you are addressing a topic of innovation action, because with innovation action, you are closer to the market. So it is better to assess the market that you are going to address, and to assess the importance of this sector, for instance, and how my project or my products at the end, the final products, are going to compete or will have like a competitive advantage over the alternatives already available in the market. For sure, we will not go in details, but there are a lot of online templates and software as well that can help you or guide you to develop this. But this is in brief the main sections of the business model canvas. You start with the key partners of your project, and then the customer segment that you are gonna to address, like, okay, I'm gonna to address something for the milk producers, for instance, or for the small producers of milk, for instance, in some areas and some countries. Then what is the novelty or the innovation or the value proposition of your project, and the key activities of your project. So you needn't to copy paste your work packages, but you just mention here in brief the 3-4 main activities needing to mention, like communication and coordination, for instance, because this is savoir faire, this is the standard. But what is important here is just to highlight the main activities, and then the customer relation, how you are gonna to approach your customer, like through websites, through workshops, through info days with the small farmers and so on, or awareness campaign. And the revenue stream it's expected from your project, and the cost structure. This is also related to the budget, like this is the resources that you are gonna to use, and this as well would reflect here on the resources, like the human resources, the financial, and the time as well, and the channel of communication. And you can see here that there is a connection between the customer relation, like the stakeholders, for instance, and how you are gonna to approach them through this communication channels. And there is also a relation between the key activities and the key resources needed for these activities. Just to give you an example, we are talking about a very brief picture, not so detailed business canvas, or because you are not an entrepreneur, you are not applying to an incubator. So, but this is like very briefly highlighting the main ideas beyond your project, and you fully understand the market and the market segment that you are gonna to address. And finally, in the full application, and here, as you can see here, that we maybe recommend something similar, maybe during the second stage, not the first stage. But again, it is up to you for sure. The last part is the business plan. Again, in brief, it starts with like the summary of the output of your project. Like, okay, we are gonna to develop like 2 products. What are the descriptions of these 2 products? Okay, I'm gonna to have like biostimulants and biofertilizers, for instance. Analyzing briefly the market that you are gonna to tackle. For instance, if you have in your consortium, you have like Turkey, Jordan, and Italy and Spain, for instance. So you can analyze the market of biofertilizers and biostimulants in these countries to highlight to the assessors that the importance of this sector in your countries, what is the competitive advantages or analysis, analyzing the competitiveness of your project against the available alternatives and the unique selling points of your products. Just for instance, okay, my product are gonna to be 20% less cost than the alternatives, or its efficiency is higher than 30%, or it can be easily produced and can be affordable for the small farmers. So this is something that you need to highlight. Tentative marketing and sales plan, for sure, very brief, for sure. The budgeting and use of resources, the financial projection of the final product, so you can reflect to the assessor that, okay, the return of investment, that, okay, you are gonna to invest like 1 or 2 million for this project, but maybe the final revenue of this project can be maybe after 5 years or 6 years or 10 years after the end of the project is gonna to be like 10 million, for instance. And then finally, the management and the organization. So I'm finished here. So I'm expecting it's heavy to digest all these aspects. Just to remind you again, these are just some recommended tools or suggested tools from our side based on our personal experience and after analyzing the winning proposal, and also based on our previous experience, because before joining PRIMA, we were like you, we were applying to some EU programs, and it is not mandatory, as I said. It is up to you to invent your own tools or diagrams and charts in order to summarize to the assessors the framework or the layout of your idea. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Someone has their hand up. Mürşide Dartay, do you have a question?
Mürşide, you are muted. Can you unmute? Okay, I think we can hear you now if you speak.
Do you not have a question? No?
Okay.
Okay.
I think we received some question, Mohammed, in the Q&A box in the meantime.
Yeah, I saw it pop up.
So we're answering as well, myself and Deda.
Good. Okay, so no questions. So in this case, we can move directly to, I think we received a question. Do you have assumption about the time of the next call? Okay, we said that it's planned to launch the new call for 2021 on the 16th of February. So, and we are gonna to share the link for the info day. And as I said yesterday, this is a very important source of information because you will listen to the project officer of each call and each thematic area. And we are gonna to break it down the topic, the challenges, the scope, and the expected impact into the main items or the main ideas. And you can follow us because it's going to be live streamed over the YouTube, over the Facebook channel as well of PRIMA, and it used to be recorded and to be uploaded as well, so you can see it as well later. Okay, so if there is no more questions here, so I will forward the mic to our colleague Pau, the PRIMA Financial Manager, to give session 7 for the budgeting and the financial aspect. Sorry, just a question. Okay, thanks. Okay, how many applications can an institution make for a call? What are the limits? Okay, this is a very good question. Okay, for section 1, you can apply as a coordinator or as a partner as much as you want. For section 2, it depends on the national regulations, because I can tell for Egypt, you cannot apply as a partner or as a coordinator for more than 2 projects. For section 2, maybe Eda can.
For section 2 in Turkey, there is no limit. You can apply more than once, as many times as you want.
Okay, and there is also some governing rule for us that, okay, you can apply as many as you want for section 1, but as a coordinator or as a partner. And you can be a partner in many section 1 and many for section 2. It's okay. But you cannot be a coordinator for a project submitted for section 1 and a coordinator for a project submitted to section 2. You cannot be a coordinator in 2 different projects submitted to one section 1 and one for section 2. So this is very important to consider, but you can be a partner as many as you want for section 1 and as well for section as a coordinator, and for section 2, it depends on your national regulations. Okay, more questions. Should all partners be a research organization? For sure not. But first, it depends on your project and your idea, but we strongly advise to have this multidisciplinary in your consortium. So just an example, you have like 40% research and academic institutions, 30% from private sector, 10% from SMEs, 10% from public authorities. So this mix is for sure will have an added value on the quality, not just for during the evaluation, but also on the quality of the project, especially as we said, if we are talking about an innovation action topic, for sure you will need at the end an SME or a manufacturer or a producers in order to provide you the final product. And this for sure would reflect on the business canvas or the business plan, because no one better than the private sector can give you some insights about the market share, the segments, the customers, and the final customers of your final product. Okay, so can we be coordinator in post sections? Yes, for sure, because yesterday we invited 2 success stories or best practices. Sorry, it seems that we entered to the, sorry. Maybe we can now move to Pau, and me and Marco will write down the answers, okay? And then we will have, if there is any unanswered questions, we will go later to the question and answer, sorry. Okay, so Pau, the floor is yours.
Okay, do I share my screen?
Yes, Pau, yes.
Okay. Okay. Do you see it? Yes? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yes, Pau, yes.
Okay. So good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this training session. I had read the wonderful comment about it yesterday, so I wish the expectations of my presentation would be at least the same as my colleagues. Okay. So the idea of my presentation would be to present the most relevant rules that apply for PRIMA projects in terms of financial and budget. And I will also give some practical clues how to apply and which are the most typical mistakes that we face when we receive the reporting or just after signing the grant agreements. And later on, I will explain some rules about reporting, audits, and so on and so forth. So by the end of the session, you are open to ask as many questions as you wish. And so I'm here to help you, okay? So first of all, the first thing that you should know, and I think you are aware, is that PRIMA calls follow H2020 rules, okay? So we are following exactly the rules that are applied from the program of 2014 to 2020. Even if the calls are launched in 2021, 2022, 2023, we follow the rules of Horizon 2020. This is very important, okay? So we don't follow Horizon Europe rules, which is the new program that has a start this year. So we keep with H 2020 rules. Okay. So any questions or any doubt, you should address to the model grant agreement of H 2020. Okay. So what do we expect when you request in PRIMA calls? You should prepare a budget. Okay. In section 1, I will focus my presentation in section 1 because the rules are for H 2020. And as my colleagues have already mentioned, in section 2, it depends on the national rules, okay? So we don't understand and we don't know all the national rules for each country, but what we already know is the section 1 rules, okay? So I will focus my presentation in section 1, okay? So we expect that you present a budget. First of all, in the first stage, that you should give us a global amount. And if you succeed to go to the second stage, you have to present the full proposal, then you should present the detailed budget for each partner, for each category, okay? So you should already know the amount in stage 1. We don't ask for the detail, but in case you are selected for stage 2, you need to do the breakdown for each category, okay? It is important to mention that the budget that you request in stage 1 cannot be modified to stage 2, okay? So if you request 2 million in stage 1, you cannot change it to 3 million in stage 2, okay? Because the analysis and the evaluation done by the assessors is for the same budget, with the same partners, with the same work package, with the same, okay? This is important. Okay, going into detail, the idea is, we have eligible cost and ineligible cost. Okay, so first of all, we will explain which is the difference between eligible and ineligible. Eligible costs are all the costs that can be declared in the PRIMA calls and can request for a refund. Okay, it can be justified and can be paid once you report. And the ineligible cost is all the costs that are not eligible, and they will be rejected in case any partner reports on any financial statement. Okay. How we calculate the eligible cost? Okay. Basically, we use 3 methodologies. Okay. We use the actual cost, which is the most common one, the unit cost, and the flat rate. And we will go, to each one to explain what is in each category. Okay. So the actual costs are the most common one and is used in all the categories. Okay, the main characteristic is you can see it here, but I repeat and emphasize that it should be actually induced by the beneficiary. So it's important that all the costs that will be reported should be reported by the beneficiary who is in the grant agreement. Okay, they should be justified during the period of the action, not before and not after. Okay, so if the action lasts 3 years, all the costs should be related for these 3 years. They should be already estimated in the budget. And very important, that you should follow the national law of your country, in this case, Turkey. Okay. Here you have some specific laws, which is eligible, which is not eligible. Some questions that sometimes you ask, for example, the travel cost for the kickoff meetings is eligible, but for instance, all the costs that you will face to prepare the consortium agreement during this month are not eligible because you have not signed the grant agreement. So all the meetings or your travels that you can make to agree on the idea of the action are not eligible. Okay. Then we will explain in more cases. Okay? The second category of justifying eligible cost is the unit cost. Normally we see there in the personal cost. I will explain it in an example, how to calculate it. But basically it's another way to calculate the cost in terms of price per unit. The third category is lump sum, but we haven't seen it in PRIMA calls, so I don't expect to have it in your calls in the next year, so because it's an outcome-based payment and we have not seen it. And the fourth category is the flat rate cost, which is the overheads, which are the direct costs, which is automatically calculated of 25% of the total eligible direct cost. We will see it later with an example. On the other hand, we have the ineligible costs. As I said, all these costs are not eligible. For instance, the deductible VAT, if your institution gets back the VAT from the government, you cannot justify it on the action because you will be double paid for it. For instance, the currency exchange losses, remember that PRIMA Actions works in euro, so you should report in euro. So in case there is a variability on your currency, you cannot justify these gains or losses of exchange, okay? Or for instance, a reckless expenditure or doubtful debts, okay? Okay, what is and how is the PRIMA budget look like? No? Here you have a template of how do we apply for the budget. Okay, on the left side you have number 1, partner number 1, 2, 3 until 10. Okay, then you have the partner country, the acronym of the partner, and the first category is the direct personal cost. Okay. And it could be justified as actual or unit. Okay, it will depend on how your organization works. Here it's very important to emphasize that your institution cannot change the methodology due to the PRIMA action. Okay, so your institution should use the methodology of justifying the cost that has been used for months, for years. Okay, so you should follow the same methodology to justify the PRIMA calls as you have been done recently. Okay. The second category is the direct cost of subcontracting. Subcontracting is allowed in PRIMA calls. Subcontracting can be part of the work, but it should be not a core task. Okay, so the core task should be done by the partner, but it's possible to subcontract part of the work. The third category, direct cost of financial support. Here there is an option, but we have not seen it in 3 years, so I don't expect that none of you have justified here, so I will not go in detail on it. The fourth category, other direct costs. Here, the most common one is the depreciation of the equipment, all the costs for travels, or other contracts of service that you should contract. Okay. This would be all the direct costs, these 4 categories, and then go ahead with indirect costs. So as I have mentioned, H2020 simplifies the rule and makes a flat rate of 25% of all the direct eligible costs except for subcontracting. Okay, so the indirect costs, there is no need to justify them. Okay, PRIMA will not ask for any bill, any cost related to this, and it will be automatically calculated. So if PRIMA gives the approval for all the eligible costs, then automatically the direct costs are approved, and then it could be directly justified. Okay. Now I show you the same example, but with real numbers. Okay. Here is a budget of PRIMA from call section 1 2019. And here I would like to repeat or to say two or three ideas different than the other slide. The first category, as you see here, is the personal cost. Okay, in this case, all the partners have justified an actual cost, which is the most common one. Okay, but here you see the importance of the personal cost among all the total amount of the budget. Okay, out of 1.6 million, which is the maximum grant amount, 1,593,000, more than 1 million is personal cost. So you can imagine that in PRIMA calls, the most relevant cost is the PRIMA personal cost, okay? Normally it's around 60–70% of the total cost, but it depends on the action, but it's the most, for sure, the most important. And here, what we see is there are many errors how to calculate them. Because, as you know, and if not, I explain it, when you put here, for instance, the budget of this partner from Turkey, which has put 180,000 euros, this number is aggregated of a total person month for all the work package for which this partner is involved, okay? This person month, later we will know how to calculate them, but it's important that they are well calculated and you should account all of them. Because sometimes what we see is, for instance, that the person month is really high for the cost lives of each country, okay? Or the other way around. You have put a lot of person month and the cost per person month is really low. And this is very important because when you will have to justify this cost, you will justify person month for a certain price. So if you have not done well the calculation, here we will face a problem, okay? Regarding another tips and tricks for other direct costs, and we see it, is, for instance, for when you buy some investments or you buy some infrastructure. Remember that we should only take in consideration the depreciation cost of the asset that you need for the action, okay? You cannot fully justify 100% of it, of an asset which have a life or a duration more than 3 or 4 years that the action lasts, okay? So here it's important to use well the rule of depreciation cost according to the use of the asset on the action, okay? And as well here, when you contract goods and service, the rule of best value for money, okay? You should follow your internal rules, but the best value for money should be on the top of it, okay? Finally, in PRIMA actions, if we are working in a
Pau, I think we lost you, Pau. Pau, hello?
You speak.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, now
Yes.
we can hear you, yes.
Sorry, I had a problem with the, no, sorry. I was saying the reimbursement rate, okay, this is important. For reactions, all the partners can get 100% of the money that they request. But for innovation actions, IA actions, if you are a profit organization, you can also claim 70% of it, okay? So in this example, you see the Turkish partner, they request 280,000 euros, but as they are a profit organization, we multiply it for the 70%, so the total grant amount that they can justify is 197,000. Okay, so please take into consideration when you prepare the budget to see if you are in an innovation action, if you are a profit or non-profit organization. Okay. Also, okay, we all understand that the budget is prepared nearly some month ago before you are selected for funding, and things can change during this period, okay? So there are some changes from categories that are allowed during the duration of the action, okay, as long as they are duly justified, okay? So normally we see here some partners or some coordinator ask to transfer money from personal cost to other direct cost, or maybe they change the methodology from actual to unit cost due to some changes, or for example, you transfer some amount to one partner to another because you have your relocate some tasks. So here, what we want to emphasize is that, okay, the budget is not the closed document and it's not, you cannot change it for anything. No, the other way around. as long as it's justified, you can change it. You have to, first of all, inform your project officer and PRIMA secretariat that there are some changes to be done. And depending on the changes, we should consider to do an amendment, or you should explain and report it on the next midterm or final report. Okay, but what we would like to say here that changes are allowed. Okay, we don't want that every single month we have a change, so try to do the budget as much clear and much justified possible from the beginning. But of course, there are some changes that can be done during the period of the action. Here is more theoretically for each category, which is the explanation of each one. I will go much faster because I think I have explained it on each category. But for instance, how to calculate the cost, the direct personal cost. So here, the general rule is really simple. Is you have to count the hours work multiplied by an hourly rate. And how to calculate this hourly rate? You divide the personal cost for the person divided for the productive hours. And these productive hours could be the ones who appear in the labor agreement, could be standard one, which is 1,720, or any other restriction that your organization allows. Okay, but this would allow you to calculate the cost per person month, and then how to report in the direct personal cost. Okay, the personal cost should include the salary plus the social security contributions. Okay, everything should be there in order to calculate the hourly rate properly. Here, the importance of keeping time records. Okay, all the people who work in the action should record time records. So in a periodic basis, we recommend in a daily or weekly, they should fill in a timesheet where the person who works and the supervisor signs the hours that are allocated to the project. Okay, this can be requested in an audit, so it's really important that these time records are signed and duly justified during the report. Okay, and here there are some errors that we face and we would like to remind. For instance, that sometimes we see that they are reporting to people who are sick or on holiday at the same time. So please try to do it correctly. Or the number of hours exceed the number of hours that you can work per month or per year. Or, for example, you cannot justify these hours because you were not there, so it's impossible that you can put these hours in the project. Okay, so please, the time records are really, really important. Here, well, some examples which are eligible or not eligible. Normally, all the costs are eligible. For instance, the recruitment cost is not eligible, but the parental leave, the PhD, the benefits in kind are eligible. Okay, the second category of costs is the subcontracting. Okay, here they should be declared as actual cost, and also you should specify it in the Annex 1, which is the description of the action, which is the document that you provided in the second stage of 50 pages. Okay. Other direct costs I have mentioned. The most common one is the travel cost, the equipment, the rule of depreciation. Also, you can use renting or leasing. And for the other kind of service is the goods and service. You don't have to specify it in the Annex 1, okay? Because you can say that you will have a service of a website, but you don't have to specify it in the Annex 1 who will do it. And that's all, okay? Consumables, supplies, certificates on the financial statements, okay? For instance, people who will request a lot of money need a certificate at the end of the action. Okay? Okay, the indirect costs, okay, we have mentioned that it's a flat rate, okay, the overheads. We should consider all the eligible direct costs, excluding the cost of subcontract. And here you have an example how to calculate it, okay? So for instance, this public university would like to justify 100,000 for personal cost, 20,000 for subcontracting, and 10,000 for other direct costs. So the total eligible direct cost is 130,000. But when we calculate the indirect cost, we only take into consideration the personal and the other direct costs. That's why the 25% is out from 110. So the total eligible cost would be 130 plus 20,500. It makes a total of 157,500. Okay. The concept of third parties. Okay. The third parties in X2020, it's all the entities which carry out part of the action, but they don't sign the grant agreement. Okay, so if they do carry out part of the work, it should be described in Annex 1. Okay, and also they can provide resources, goods, and services, and they should be also described in the Annex 1. Okay, and here there are the two categories and which article apply in each case. If they are carrying out part of the work, it could be a subcontractor or a third party, the articles, or if they just provide resources, it's a contractor, or the use of in-kind contribution. In these articles of the model grant agreement, you know all the cases and you find the explanation. Okay? You can check the model grant agreement either on our website, or I kindly recommend you to go and look for in internet the annotated model grant agreement, where you can see the same rules, but with a detail and with real examples, okay? Which I think is a very good document if you have doubt before submitting the proposal. How we will keep the documents and support the documents that we will need. Okay, the idea is all the documents should be kept in original for at least 5 years. Okay, for instance, for actual costs, it's payrolls, contracts, subcontracts, invoices, okay, accounting records. For unit cost, the methodology that you have used to declare. And what I can mention, for personal costs, the importance of time records, okay? If there is here an exception, that if the person works 100% exclusively for the action, there is no need to time records. In all the other cases, the time records are mandatory. Okay. Okay. The reports and payments. Okay. So PRIMA will receive the 2 reports, one at the midterm and one at the final term. Okay. In each report, you should include the scientific report and the financial report. Each partner should report an individual financial statement, and the coordinator should present the aggregated one. Okay. If there is a partner in the consortium that requires more than 325,000 euros in direct costs not included, then at the end of the action, it should include a certificate of the financial statements with the financial report, okay? And that's why you should allocate part of your budget for this certificate if you ask for this amount or not. Okay? As I have mentioned, everything should be in the euro, reported in euro, and for the non-euro members, you can use the official journal of the European Union to calculate the exchange. Okay. How PRIMA pays? PRIMA will only pay to the coordinator, okay? And the coordinator will split the payments for all the partners, okay? According to the consortium agreement that they have agreed before signing the grant agreement, okay? So we will not interfere how the coordinator will pay to the rest of the partners, because PRIMA will only pay to the coordinator. And we will pay up to 3 times. Once at the beginning, 60%, the pre-financing, 30% by up to 30% at the middle of the project, and the payment of the balance once we receive the final report and everything is eligible, and if everything is duly justified, we can pay the 10%, which is okay. Check reviews on audits. We expect to have a quite high verification for all the beneficiaries, okay, among all the calls and all, during PRIMA actions. We expect to check 30% of them. The reviews can start up to 2 years after the payment of the balance. So if you have not received a review after 2 years that the action ends, you will not be checked. These audits will be performed either by the PRIMA Secretariat or any other body that we should contract to do it. And a part of the PRIMA checking, there are 2 institutions from the European atmosphere, which is the OLAF and the ECA, that can carry out also some audits to check that everything is properly justified. Okay, so I think I have spoken a lot. I have done all the basic things that I think that we should take in consideration to report and to prepare the budget. So now it's time for questions. So here, feel free to ask. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Paul. We already have 2 questions in the Q&A box. Could you take a look and maybe start with those 2 questions first?
Okay. Is there a necessary balance between, I mean, total person months corresponded to total person cost, and which can be careful? Is there a maximum cost for the person month? Let's say we're going to spend a lot of time. Okay. If I understand correct the first question, I mean, there is no limit, but for instance, the coordinator normally is the partner who requests more money, okay, because it has the management and the coordination of the action, and it dedicates quite a lot per month to it. So normally the coordinator is the one who requests more money in terms of personal cost and the total budget. Is there a maximum cost for person month? Here it depends on the cost of your institution. I mean, for instance, in Turkey, if I'm not mistaken, a normal person month, it's around 1,000 to 1,500. Okay, this is a normal person cost that can be justified for Turkish standards cost lives. But maybe the partner is a private company which has high salaries, and the person month could be higher, or the other way around. Maybe it's a farmer that has a low salary and the cost is 700. So again, you have to justify the actual costs that are paid to the workers. Okay. And the last part of the question, let's say of the coordinator, companies spend a lot of time, but is there a limit to be considered? No, there's no limit. I mean, the limit is the budget. I mean, each call has a limit per budget per consortium, but the distribution among the partners and the distribution among the categories, there is no limit. I mean, there are reasonable limits, which I have mentioned, which is normally the personal cost is 60–70% of the total cost. But I mean, there is no a maximum and a minimum. It's just a recommendation and based on the experience. Okay. Second question: do you need to get if you claim 300 but not report totally at the end? So the rule is, if the partner requests more than 320,000 euros, indirect cost not considered, so the total budget should be more. At the end of the action, and you should attach to the final report a certificate on the financial statements done by an external audit body, certifying that all the costs claimed by this partner are eligible and fulfill the national rules and the rules of this organization. Okay, I don't know if I have answered this question. And the third one, can we have contingent receipt for unexpected cost? This is, if I understand correctly, is just to have a part of the budget. I mean, the budget has to be justified for all the categories. Okay, so the contingency reserve is I don't know, it's a decision that should be taken in consideration in the consortium agreement. If all the partners decides that all the payment received by PRIMA at certain percentage will not be justified until the end of the action, this is up to you. But I mean, the budget is a budget, and it will suffer some modification. You will face some problems. You will have to maybe withdraw a partner. You will have to add some person months. So the contingency reserve, I mean, you will face some unexpected costs. So maybe you can take in consideration. Also, you should consider you have the overheads that you don't have to justify them, and you have 25% of all the eligible costs, that sometimes the overheads can cover this unexpected cost.
Oh, sorry, if I may say something here to Adnan,
yes,
for his question, because this is the template of the Europe 8 code. There is like a budget line called contingency budget, and it is 7% up to 7% of the direct cost. But here in PRIMA, we are applying the H2020 or Horizon Europe starting from next year. So there is no dedicated amount for contingency. But as Pau said, that you will have an amount as the indirect. So this is, maybe you can apply it or use it for any risks or any unforeseen conditions. You can, as well as he presented in his presentation, you can request for an amendment or reallocation or transfer by different lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed.
So do we have any other questions? If someone has a question, please raise your hand or write it in the Q&A.
Welcome. If there are questions, will be not. But I don't understand the question. What do you mean in terms of if there are questions, will be not? Do you mean if you transfer from one category to another, or what do you mean?
I think if I understand Fatma correctly, Pau, like, okay, it seemed that if they need like an additional budget, because there was like a question about the devaluation or increase in the prices, for instance, of an equipment. So is there any, because this is the use of the contingency in Europe Aid or DEFCO, but this is not the case here.
No, it's not the case. I mean, you can relocate from one category to another, but there is a maximum budget. I mean, you cannot go, I mean, this is the rule. And what you can do internally is that if you face a problem that you need more person month, and there is a partner that can do the work with less person month, you can transfer from one partner to another one. But take in consideration that there is a maximum PRIMA grant amount, okay? And this cannot be exceeded in any case, okay? What you can do is distribute differently from the budget to the reality, but the PRIMA grant amount, the maximum PRIMA grant amount cannot be exceeded in any case.
So, Şeyma Tarkan has a question, I think.
Yeah, thank you for perfect presentation. I really want to understand the answer of the CFS certificate. So we need to we demand the 325 key for a budget, as a budget, I mean. and at the end of the project, we couldn't report 325 key. And even in that conditions, do we require to get a CPS certificate again? Thank you.
No, I mean, if you don't reach this limit, no need. I mean, this limit is also the certificate is mandatory if you exceed the limit.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But if you don't reach it for any reason, because maybe you don't need 20,000 euros and you only spend 300,000, then there is no need to attach this certificate.
Okay, thank you. I understand now. Thank you.
I think there is another.
Hello, can you hear me?
Very, very loud.
It's good right now?
Yes.
If you can raise your voice a bit.
Yes, please. I don't need.
It is good right now?
Go ahead.
All right. Can you give also more information about personal costs? I think there was like, product divided by working hour, but also there are some services. How can we fill that category?
There kind of, can you repeat? Because the last part of the question, I couldn't hear well.
All right. I'm just asking about the personal costs.
Yes.
You know, I think there was like product divided by working hour, but there's going to be also services. According to what we should calculate there.
So the general rule is how to calculate the hourly rate, okay? And how much each hour costs for each work. So the idea is you have to take in consideration the gross salary of this person plus the social security cost of the contract of this person. Then you will have a final amount, let's say, I don't know, 20,000 euros. And this person will work 1,800 hours. So if you divide these 20,000 euros divided by 1,800 euros, 800 hours, you will have the price per hour. Okay. Then, if this person, for instance, it works 10 hours per week on the action, then you start multiplying 10 per 11 euros, and then so on and so forth until you get the total cost for this person. And you have to do it for all the people who will work on the action, this cost, okay? Because the cost will vary in each person, okay? Because depending on how long have they been working in the institution, the category, you know, there are many variables which makes the salary different, okay? But you have to calculate it for each person the other way. I don't know if I have answered your question.
Yeah, I think it's about, you know, depending on the country, the personal cost is changing. For example, in Turkey and also in Europe or in other countries, it's going to change. So we should calculate them on that country.
Yes.
All
yeah,
right.
for sure. Another question here. It is better to attend 15 of your total budget then. What do you mean with this question or comment? Same, or do you understand this?
Okay, Pao, I read this comment, but okay, we will act like we didn't read it because she is suggesting that the applicant can like overestimate a little bit your budget, just you yourself, but we didn't see anything. Okay.
Again, the budget, I mean, there is a maximum budget.
So any other questions? If you have any questions, please raise your hand. I don't think we have any more questions regarding the budget. Thank you so much, Paul, for your presentation and for answering our questions.
You're welcome.
Maybe now we can move on to networking and building the consortium.
Okay, I see that the number of participants is decreasing, so I think that maybe many people are getting tired. We are reaching the end, so don't worry. I promise I will try to be brief with the next presentation. Just gonna share the screen now. Okay, I'll launch it full screen. I hope everyone can hear and see well. Okay, so the presentation that will bring this workshop to a close is focused on a very important item, which obviously it's a necessary step for you to develop your proposal and submit it. That is, you need partners. You need a consortium of partners. We already told you that there are some specific eligibility and admissibility requirements for Section 1 calls and Section 2 calls. So please don't forget to check these requirements. As a general rule for both type of calls, the minimum eligibility consortium for PRIMA transnational consortium is to have at least, to be composed of at least 3 independent organizations, what we call 3 independent legal entities from 3 different PRIMA participating states. And you also may remember from yesterday that there is that rule which establishes that out of these 3, obviously one has to be established. One of these partners should be established in an EU country. Another one should be established in a non-EU country, like Turkey, for example. The third one can either be from what we call the northern shore of the Mediterranean, that is the EU countries, or the south, okay, that is the non-EU countries. When I talk about these 3 legal entities, where maybe I confused you a bit by saying EU and non-EU, we are always looking at the 19 participating states of PRIMA, okay? So make sure that the 3, at least 3 partners are from these. I mean, to have an eligible consortium, you have to have at least 3 partners. Normally, you don't have a limit. You can decide yourselves how many partners you have, but make sure that you also check, in the case you're submitting a Section 2 proposal, make sure that you check the eligibility conditions with your agency, in this case with TÜBİTAK, especially if there is more than one partner from the same country. Okay, so let's continue with the presentation. Obviously, I hope that after these 2 days, you know, you are starting to brainstorm with your colleagues. Maybe you have some good ideas and you are thinking that it would be interesting to submit an application to PRIMA, even if you haven't done it before. So how do you start to obviously frame your idea, frame your project, and then how do you look for partners? We're going to give you some tips during this session. Okay, so yesterday as well, we shared with you some ideas, some tips on how to prepare, let's say, a project brief. That could be a very simple and concise outline of your project idea. You will need anyway an abstract that we said you can develop after you have very clearly developed the whole project. At that stage, you can write a summary, an abstract that you will submit together with the proposal. However, a project brief, an initial project brief that you will share with some potential partner is quite different because, yes, some elements may be similar to what you find in an abstract, okay, because the purpose is the same, to concisely discuss, elaborate on the main objectives, problems, needs that your project is tackling. However, the project brief that you start developing when the idea is still, let's say, a preliminary version of what one day will be the project, will change over time as long as you speak with your partners, the ones which join you in this adventure and the ones which maybe are not interested in collaborating. Okay, so the first thing that you should do if you have a project idea, you should look, let's say, in-house, okay? So you can, if you're a member, for example, you're a researcher, okay? So most probably there are some colleagues in your university, in your department, that would be interested in working with you, or there may be a specific department or office which is, let's say, which works on international relations or provide administrative support and feedback on international project applications. So if you have this chance, these are the first people that you should target, okay? Look at who is next door. Look in-house and see if you can find collaborators for your project already in your institution, okay? Obviously, you can, in this case, you're looking at PRIMA as a funding program, but maybe you will see that by speaking with other colleagues that they may suggest some programs that are more tailored for your project idea. We hope at least that the next calls that we will launch will be interesting for you, but consider also other programs that are tackling the same sectors and areas and challenges that PRIMA is tackling. Obviously, you can communicate with TÜBİTAK because they may be sometimes easier to reach for you if you wish to speak in your native language, and there are some complex aspects that maybe you prefer to discuss with EDA or the colleagues from TÜBİTAK. Make yourself try to be fast, because especially in this period, considering that in less than 1 month, actually in more or less 3 weeks, we are going to launch the calls. It's good to do some prep work, some preparatory work, okay? So that you're ready by the time the calls are launched, you're already at an advanced stage, okay? What I may suggest is that if you have a project idea, have a look at this RIA and already start jotting down ideas. It could be a 1-page, a 2-pager. When we launch the calls, we will see if there is some kind of alignment between your idea and the calls. There may be not, but I don't think it's a big effort to prepare, a project brief. If you are lucky and you see that your idea would fit with the calls, you will have already saved a lot of time. So don't wait for the publication of the course. That's our advice. Okay, so Mohammed already spoke about the theory of change. That is, it encompasses problems, needs, relevance, goals and objectives, and the ideas for the activities that one day will become the work plan. So again, as I said before, this can change many times, because now a project brief of 1 or 2 pages that you are developing is just the first core, the first idea that you have. And as long as you meet people who bring some kind of feedback, it will change a lot. All right, let's recapitulate again a bit what are the main important aspects that you have to tackle with a project brief. It can be either a Word document or let's say some text in PDF, 1 or 2 pages, but you are free also to make it a bit longer according to your taste. Or it can be also a very simple presentation of 10-15 slides. Don't forget that after you have spoken with your colleagues in your department or some close contacts that you know, even in other institutions at national level or internationally, okay? Maybe you have participated in other projects, in cost actions, in Erasmus actions, and you already have some network. When you target them after you already developed your project brief, for them it is essential to have clear information, concise information, so that they can react quickly, okay, to you. And it's the same perspective that we shared with you when we discussed how to develop the proposal. Always avoid complicated language, unclear explanations, acronyms which are not really where the full sentence is not provided, because clarity is key to facilitate collaboration and also to get good scores during the evaluation. So very concise and clear, suggested project title. This is not going to be the final one, so it's just an idea, and you can also write it after you develop the other items that you see in this list. You can indicate the call reference or provide some links to the website, so that even your potential partners start seeing already what PRIMA is about. Develop very briefly the background of the project, okay, what we saw then before from the theory of change. That is the problem statement, the main idea, and what kind of solutions you're proposing. And again, we want to repeat these concepts because these are the building blocks really of proposal development, and the items on which you are going to elaborate in the full proposal template. Again, if you can already identify some potential expected results, some target groups and beneficiaries, include them. Demonstrate the alignment to the core priorities. If you can have at least a preliminary, not the details, but even the tables that we showed you, you can have, for example, an idea of how many work packages you will have and what will be about, what the work will be about. Okay, so you will have, for example, the one for communication, the one on management, and so on. Okay. Potential partners. Here you can either include some institutions that you think could be a good fit in the consortium, or you can just suggest the type of expertise that you would need to fill the gap, fill some specific gap in the consortium. Okay, so you, for example, believe that there are chances to submit a proposal on, irrigation with reused wastewater. So you will detail here all the potential partners by naming some organizations that could be other departments or national or international organizations. And you also can, if you're not naming the organization itself, you can say, we need someone with expertise in agronomy. We need someone who can perform some kind of analysis of the current state of the art when it comes to regulations that hinder the reuse of wastewater in irrigation. So either you put the name of the organization if you have it in mind, or you just indicate what type of expertise you would need to have a very complete and complementary consortium. Expected budget that you may revise if you start doing this exercise before the launch of the calls. You will not have now the maximum or expected budget that we will foresee for the projects. So you can have a tentative budget. Remember that, let's say section 1 and section 2 are a bit different. So normally the budget in section 1 are a bit higher, and then they can also reach 2 million, 2.5 million, 3 million, because they are projects which are normally funding more innovation. While for section 2, normally we are in the range of 1 million, 1.5 million euros. So just to give you some orientation on some potential expected budget for your projects. It's very unlikely that if we fund projects which have a budget in, let's say, below 1 million euros, because obviously that would reduce a lot the dimension of the project, the dimension of the consortium, the amount of work that we are funding, and as a consequence, also the impact is more limited. So let's say that if you have a project idea that could have a budget between 1 and 3 million, that is more or less the budget range that PRIMA funds, okay? And keywords so that you can deliver the message just by reading a few keywords. The reader can understand what the project is about, what are the main aspects tackled. Okay, this is obviously some tips that sometimes are overlooked but are important. Obviously start on time, so you make sure that obviously you start a bit in advance, do your reading, try to know PRIMA very well, so that when we publish the calls, you are ready and you have taken some steps to apply. And you can also kind of, since we have a lot of competition, as we said, and we have very low success rate because we receive hundreds of applications every year, time, it can be a very important factor. So think that there are already some networks in the Mediterranean. So a partner that could be a good partner for you, maybe, let's say, stolen by someone else. So doing some networking in advance is good, and looking for potential partners is good, even because a contact that you find today and that you will not use for a PRIMA application, still it will be good maybe for next year, or for another program, for submitting a proposal to another program. So start today. The consortium has to be finalized before the submission deadline. So if you reach the stage where you are still working on adjusting the consortium before the submission, obviously this can hinder also the proposal development process. So by the start, you should already have a project idea ready. You will develop after the launch of the calls. Obviously, you will be looking for partners, but try not to reach the last minute before submission and you are still adjusting the partnership. Okay, remember also that you don't need to have a lot of partners. You have to have the necessary ones which bring an added value to the consortium. Okay, What is an ideal winning consortium? Well, the first bullet point says identify the true key opinion leaders, KOLs, within your field or topics. They may be busy, they may be, they're not interested maybe, or they have already been hijacked, stolen kind of by someone else who arrived first and already contacted them to be partner of their consortium. But yes, your objectives should also be, you know, to kind of make a good impression on the evaluator, because you have people in the consortium who are experts in their fields and have a good track record. So a consortium, even if there are some new organizations which for the first time join an international consortium, that's completely fine. And we have a lot of these projects and we encourage them. However, trying to map really some potential partners that really are the some authorities in the scientific realm, or have very good importance, very good experience in and have participated in important projects, will make a difference. Again, we said, try to be multidisciplinary, try to have a multidisciplinary consortium, and all partners should have a very unique role, no overlaps if possible, but complementarities. And the geographical spread is important, as I said yesterday, because PRIMA looks at projects which can develop solutions which are relevant at regional level. So what you develop with the funding that we provide, if it's something that can work for the whole Mediterranean, or a good part of it, okay, where, for example, we know that there are several countries which share some morphological features. So most probably they're facing the same problems, and the same solutions can be adopted and adapted as well based on the country features. That's why, I mean, it's important that you have a good geographical spread, okay? So try to get on board the KOLs, and obviously if you have a couple of partners which have proven experience in participating in transnational projects, they bring in very good scientific leadership in the field. That is already a core consortium, and the chances are that they will have their networks, and that you will be able to kind of drag in other partners because through the networks of this core consortium that you already established. Okay. Remember that one brain, I mean, cannot do the work of 2 or 3 brains. So when you start talking with potential partners and you agree on an initial simple project idea, they will be able to provide feedback and improve the project idea, but they can also bring potential partners in. So it's really like the magnitude of this process will increase as long as you make an effort to, you know, to find another couple of core partners in the consortium that can, you know, help you out with this. Then obviously you will develop you will develop the initial project idea, so the main objectives, the scope of the projects, and the theory of change, so that it starts really turning into something which at a point will become an application. And again, apart from the help that they can give you, the other partner that you bring through their networks, there are also some partnering tools to expand the consortium, because for sure it may be that you actively look for partners, but it may also be that passively you are chosen as a partner. So you have to look at this process from both perspectives. You want to make yourself visible, and you want to use your networks, and you want to use the networks of the people who you are contacting, okay? Also, remember that networking is always useful. Again, even if you don't find partners for this call, chances are that you will maybe publish with them, or you will maybe have collaboration under other areas. So, I mean, try to do your best to find partners via networking tools. Now, what are these networking tools? One that we have created and is available on the PRIMA website is the so-called Find Partners tool. Obviously, we will share this presentation with you, and you have a link here, but you can also go directly, and you will find, you will see that if you check the PRIMA website, on the top right corner, you will see that there is a tab that you can click on, and it's called Find Partners And after clicking on it, you will land directly onto this page that I'm showing you right now. So yesterday, we were very glad to hear that I think Professor Messit found some partners for his project, which was eventually funded through this tool. And every year we have hundreds of partnership requests posted on this section of the website. So what you can do here is you can post something about your organization, specify the call, the PRIMA call in which you are interested. You can say what expertise you are looking for, and the most important thing is that not only you can post partnership requests, but you can also search through this section of the website. There is a search engine, so by call, by country, or by thematic area, you can go directly to the partnership request that is most suitable for your consortium. Okay, so please check we are going to do a bit of maintenance on the project, on the website. I think over the next couple of days, we're going to polish this section, and soon it will be usable again. Now, I mean, the more you make an effort to make yourself visible and to look for partners, the more chances you have to finalize the consortium before as early as possible. And so we encourage you not only to look at the PRIMA partnering tool that I just showed you, but also, for example, Enterprise Europe Network, which is a network which is promoted by the European Union. It's active in more than 60 countries, and it includes hundreds of organizations which publish collaboration requests, not only concerning potential applications to calls for proposals, but also business opportunities and so on. And it's a good network because it's multidisciplinary, and you have chambers of commerce, technology poles, innovations that support organizations that support innovation, universities, and so on. You don't just have potential partners, but for example, if you contact the Chamber of Commerce, that could be a potential partner for a project, but could be also someone who can distribute your collaboration request, partnership request, to another network. So try also to think of this. If you reach like chambers of commerce or associations, you have more potential because an association is composed of several members. So it increases the chances of reaching more people. Okay, so Enterprise Europe Network is a good portal as well. There's the funding and tenders portal, which replaced the participant portal of Horizon 2020. So now here you can look for calls, and tenders launched by the European Union, but also you can look for partners. So you can even prepare a standard text for partnership requests, and you can use it for all these portals. You can post it on the PRIMA website, on the funding and tenders opportunities portal, on the EEN platform that I showed before. At the end of the day, they are very similar, these platforms. So you don't have to, the information that you're going to provide is most likely the same, but you have more potential because you can reach more people, okay, through different platforms. Another important platform that I personally used in my experience is very good when a few years ago I was looking for partners for EU projects is Cordis, because Cordis really gives you access to the creme de la creme. That is really what we called before the key opinion leaders. Cordis is a huge database where all the EU-funded projects are collated. So basically you find information on the projects themselves, so the project fact sheets with the information on the budget, the scope, the achieved impact. These are all projects which have finished or are ongoing, and I think this database dates back to probably FP5 or FP6. You have also very old projects. The good thing is that these projects have been funded. So the organizations which participated in these projects are organizations with experience in EU projects. So this is also who you want to target if you are kind of new to this world. search here. You can use keywords, okay? You can select the specific thematic areas, like for example, water. You will have access to a lot of projects with a lot of information and context of the coordinator. So you can approach these people and say that you're interested in applying, in sending an application to PRIMA, and you would like to discuss with them some potential collaboration of opportunities. So really you have a lot of information available. Something very important, don't forget that it's good to post things on a website, but if you can speak to your national contact point and see how he or she can help you search for partners, that is very good, because obviously you need someone who is you're not just in front of a screen, but you have someone who can give you feedback, who can maybe tell you, hey, I have been contacted also by the NCP of another PRIMA country, and they are looking for partners in Turkey. So even the NCPs sometimes can coordinate between themselves, and when they request some some requests for support, for networking support by potential applicants for their countries, they can also put them in touch with NCPs from other countries. So I'm sure that probably Eda will add something here, some information on how this can be done. Apart from the national contact points for PRIMA that you find, I will go back. This is a snapshot from our website. So you can go on the website as well. And in the calls for proposals part, you will also find the list of national contact points for PRIMA. But you also can look for the national contact points for Horizon 2020 that I imagine TÜBİTAK as well is the Horizon 2020 national contact points. And I mean, in this case, you can also have a look at again, at the funding and tenders opportunities portal of the European Union, where you can find additional contacts of national contact points from other countries. So I think it was even this one a very dense presentation with a lot of information. I conclude here. I don't want to take more time, but now we open the question and answer session so that if there is any doubt or maybe some further advice that you want from me or the colleagues, we can give it to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marco. I just want to add something. As Marco said, you can always contact me and I can contact other NCPs if you have a project idea, but please make sure that it's not just, I want to work in water management. Please have a specific idea and tell me about it so I can contact specific people. Otherwise, I send out emails, but I don't get replies back because there's nothing specific. Also, I would like to remind everyone about the TÜBİTAK support programs that we have for Section 1. Unfortunately, this is only for Section 1. You cannot apply to it for Section 2. One of these support programs is the travel support. Right now, because of COVID, it is not as important as it used to be, but I still want to talk about it so that you can keep it in mind for next year and other years. You can apply to this travel support program even if you have contacted someone abroad and you want to meet with them and talk about your project idea, or there's a panel or conference abroad you want to attend and it has something to do with the PRIMA thematic area, you can apply to this support program, and you don't have the obligation of writing a project after going to this travel. You can benefit from this travel support, go and meet people, come back, and if you don't want to write a proposal, you don't have to, but of course we encourage that you do write a proposal. So I just wanted to mention this also, and now we can answer some questions, I think.
Do we have something in the chat?
Yes. Fikret Bey,
nothing so far on the chat or in the QA. So now we open the floor for the questions. If you have any questions, unless everything is very clear or very complicated.
Fikret Khan has a question. So Fikret Bey, please go ahead. Your hand is raised, but you don't have a question anymore, I guess. Okay. No. Anyone else? Does anyone else have a question?
You can text or raise your hand.
Yes, I'm sure we gave a lot. We gave long presentations. It was like maybe a bit tiring as well over 2 days. And there will be a lot of questions that maybe will come to mind when
Afterwards.
the attendees of this workshop will start reading the documents, checking the website, and so on. So obviously, TÜBİTAK and PRIMA, we are like available. If you want to reach us via email, you can do it. Obviously, this is a very busy time of the year, but we will do our best to get back as soon as possible. And we are not reachable, at least myself and Mohammed, we are not reachable at the office because we are working from home and we cannot take phone calls. We're not using the office phones. But if you contact us via email, we can also arrange some Zoom calls and give you some advice or feedback if you have any questions.
Great.
And also reminding you to attend and watch the info day, because you will find a lot of very useful information and maybe a lot of answers to questions.
So if you have questions later, you can send them to me and I will contact Marco and Mohammed, or I will answer them if I can. So I guess no one has any more questions. So
Okay,
thank
great.
you. Thank you, Marco, Mohammed, and Paul. Thank you so much. We have learned a lot from you and we really appreciate all your efforts. And I know it's hard to give so many presentations in such a small amount of time. So we really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
We are going to repeat the same for Jordan for the 2 days and next week for Egypt. So it's really our pleasure and we wish all of you a good luck. Just one question, I guess. Oh, it's just a thanks on
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, and good luck to everyone.
Yeah.
Yes, I hope we will have many applications after this.
Yes, and a high success rate, inshallah.
Hopefully, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. So we will close our session here. Thank you for attending. Thank you for your participation. So hope to see you again. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, ciao.
Bye.